Welcome to Fantasy Audiobook, Dragon Ball, starting from adding 1 combat power per second. Chapter 61. Finger Moves. Under Lin Chuan's operation, the gravity multiplier directly reached 150 times. It's not a little bit of improvement, but a 50-fold bonus in one go. It wasn't until 150 times the gravity hit him that Lin Chuan realized that this 100 times gravity couldn't be compared to it. 100 times gravity can only bring so much pressure to him. But 150 times the gravity would make it difficult for him. With his strength of over 1.8 million points of combat power, it stands to reason that the force of gravity must be at least 200 times greater to give him this feeling. But, the more he feels this pressure in advance, the greater his room for improvement. With a serious expression, Lin Chuan looked at the 150G displayed on the panel and made another decision in his heart. After a while, 200 times the force of gravity pressed on my body. It increased by 50 times again. At this time, Lin Chuan could already feel his body functions roaring. It's because I feel excited and happy to be in such an environment. Is 200 times the gravity the limit of the gravity equipment this time? Bulma should have set a peak value this time, otherwise, it shouldn't be impossible to add it. However, 200 times is enough for the time being. For me, it is just enough to maintain long-term practice. There is light in the eyes. Being able to practice under 200 times gravity for a long time, 100 times can be completely ignored. With his level of strength, he practiced for 3 hours under 100 times gravity and didn't feel tired at all. How could he improve? What's more, in such a sealed environment, super intensity and crazy training cannot be carried out, let alone the release of energy. What you practice is nothing more than your own physical fitness, physical strength, and control of your chi and energy under this kind of pressure. After getting used to it for a while, Lin Chuan started to move around. First came a few super speed movements and difficult movements, allowing his body to tentatively touch the limit under this gravity. After confirming that he could do it, and soon feeling hot and sweaty and with blood gushing, Lin Chuan laughed. This feeling is true cultivation. Just like when he tried his best to improve his strength on planet V3114, he really challenged the limit again and again at that time, so that he could increase his strength to 15,000 points. In fact, if possible, it would be best if the gravity reaches 300 times or even more than 300 times. After all, Vegeta in the original book practiced and achieved breakthroughs in such an environment when his combat power exceeded 3 million or even higher. Is Vegeta that strong? Definitely. In the original work, he used Krillin to seriously injure himself, and then relied on Dandy to recover, and his strength went from hundreds of thousands to more than 2.5 million points. Later, he was easily killed by Frieza, and then resurrected by Shenron, and his strength was improved again. This is also the reason why Vegeta later broke through the Super Series in one breath, and his combat power far exceeded that of Son Goku at the time. Vegeta's foundation is not inferior to that of Sun Wukong, but in terms of realm, he is always one step behind. In fact, if the later Vegeta can continue to brush this Saiyan talent bug, he may become even more powerful. But he didn't have fairy beans. Even if bugs can be cleared, it will take more time and the improvement in strength will not be too obvious. You need to be aware of this bug of Saiyans. The improvement in strength is indeed related to the degree of injury, but how much it can be improved is closely related to rapid recovery in a short period of time. Like Sun Wukong in the original work, he used the second recovery of the fairy beans to eliminate the bug that greatly increased the ability of Saiyans to recover from serious injuries. Otherwise, even if Sun Wukong's strength improves, he may not be able to reach 90,000 combat power points in 6 days. Of course, you can quickly improve your strength by brushing this in the early stage. But in the later stages, just the length of the artificial human beings was nothing. After all, at a stage where the combat power gap is often hundreds of millions, even if the combat power is increased by 1 million in a short period of time, it will not help. Thinking of fairy beans, Lin Chuan was also ready to take action. There was no chance before, but now the spaceship is being built. Before leaving the Earth to go to planet Namek, a certain amount of fairy beans must be obtained. Calculating, it will be less than 11 months before the Saiyans invade the Earth. According to the development of the plot, the senzu beans were eaten as snacks by Oculobe a few years ago. The reserves may be almost zero now, but they are definitely more than they will be a year from now. Therefore, we must act quickly. Otherwise, it would really be too late by the time Oculobe finished his training in the Temple of Heaven and returned to the top of Kalen Tower. Free control of fairy beans. If it really comes true, then there is no need to worry about being seriously injured and unable to recover in a short time. In future cultivation, as long as he has fairy beans, he can eat one anytime, anywhere to recover, and then continue practicing. Even if the Sendo cannot recover from the consumption of mental power, it is also a way to exercise one's mental power in turn, constantly touching the limit. In addition to fairy beans, Cat Immortal also has super divine water that can tap into potential. Will this thing also be effective for me? As a time traveler, how could he not know the existence of super divine water? However, for him, maybe the super divine water has no effect. After all, his level of strength is somewhat high. The target of super divine water was the era when the combat power was only 1 or 200 points. What's more, the setting of super divine water is actually the biggest effect is to purify evil spirits, and the development potential is only incidental. To be precise, the idea of purifying evil spirits is far-fetched. Because in the original setting, the super divine water is highly poisonous, people who drink the super divine water must first have a pure heart and have potential, otherwise they will be poisoned by the super divine water. The reason why it is used to purify poison is not that it can actually purify it, but that it has a feeling similar to fighting poison with poison. After all, even if this thing is effective for Lin Chuan, I'm afraid it will only be a slight improvement at most. His thoughts were almost disrupted by his own random thoughts. Lin Chuan shook his head and continued to practice. Nowadays, tapping into potential is not an option. Besides, he now has too many ways to become stronger. Even if you want to tap the potential, you can develop it with the help of the great elders thereafter going to planet Namek. The effect is definitely more powerful than super divine water. Cultivation continues. Lin Chuan didn't even know that Bulma had returned here before he knew it. After seeing Lin Chuan disobeying and turning on 200 times gravity, she became confused. Lin Chuan really didn't lie to her. He was able to practice under 200 times gravity and move freely. Angry, Lin Chuan didn't listen to her and acted randomly after she left. Although the test at 200 times was also acceptable, in order to maintain stability, she chose 100 times. You know, although the current 2.0 gravity device is very complete, it still has many flaws. Fortunately, she set the maximum index at 200 times, otherwise the equipment would be overloaded and paralyzed. The next day, Lin Chuan slept until 9 o'clock in the morning before waking up from his dream. After practicing until nearly 10 o'clock yesterday evening, Lin Chuan and Bulma returned to the big roundhouse and had a full meal. It was inevitable to be complained and criticized by Bulma. Later, Lin Chuan walked away in a perfunctory manner, thus escaping Bulma's nagging. There was no way, he couldn't really be serious with Bulma. And it was true that he went against what he said and turned up the gravity to 200 times without authorization. Bulma didn't stop him immediately, but saw him finish his training and acquiesced in his use. If he couldn't bear a few words, he wouldn't be a man anymore. After a while, Lin Chuan stood up from the bed and could clearly feel the pain coming from the bones and muscles of his body. This is the first time in nearly half a year. I remember my last crazy hard training on Planet V3114, and I felt close to this when I woke up the next day. Since then, he has not done any serious physical training. After all, nearly 4 months ago, Frieza's minions arrived, and he killed him and seized the spaceship. He then spent another 3 months on a space voyage to Earth. Don't mention the past. Now, after just one gravity training, he had reached this limit, and it obviously gave him a feeling of rebirth. Although there was no big breakthrough in terms of combat power, after yesterday's training, he had a more perfect grasp of his own strength. A realm that was unimaginable before, but now I have a new understanding after enduring 200 times the pressure of gravity. And the most important thing is that although my body is very sore, I have endless strength. After a simple wash, Lin Chuan went to the restaurant downstairs to have breakfast. At this point, Bulma was no longer at home, and neither was Chi-Chi, and she didn't know what she was doing. However, there was food on the table, left for him. There are also smart home robots that will provide services to Lin Chuan. After filling his stomach as quickly as possible, Lin Chuan rushed to the gravity training room in no hurry. Today, he has more important things to do. After yesterday's tentative inquiry, Lin Chuan pretended to ask Bulma if there was any healing medicine on Earth that could quickly restore physical strength or restore injuries. Under his disguised reminder, Bulma told him directly about the fairy beans. From this, Lin Chuan also found a reason. He only knew about the existence of fairy beans because of Bulma, and he could actually plan such a thing. Otherwise, it would be a bit abrupt. Because he had just arrived on Earth not long ago, even if he could be said to have used alien technology to know some information about the Earth in advance, it was impossible for him to know about something as small as fairy beans, which had almost zero information. Of course he can steal it openly because of his strong strength, but others can't do anything to him. But if things develop like this, it will be boring. He came to Earth to settle down completely in the future, not to mess around and leave in the end. Leaving Exedu, Lin Chuan flew all the way towards the Tianshan Temple. In fact, Lin Chuan had already forgotten the specific location, but fortunately the Z warriors were practicing on the Temple of Heaven, so he could sense the aura. After a short time, Lin Chuan had arrived at his destination. Moreover, he also saw the cat immortal, who looked surprised and panicked after seeing him. As an immortal level existence on Earth, although cat immortal is a cat, he has lived for more than 800 years, and can be considered a master-level existence on Earth. The combat power is 190 points. I didn't notice it when I passed by it when I first arrived on Earth. But now that I feel it carefully, it's really incredible. In the original work, he only trained Sun Wukong and did not show much strength. It should be said that this cat is very good at pretending to be real, especially in the plot of Dao Baibai. He could have instantly eliminated Dao Baibai, who climbed up the tower to seek super holy water, but he did nothing. He just pretended to be real. Tao Bai was fooled for a while, and finally it was left to Sun Wukong to solve the problem. After some exchanges, Lin Chuan expressed his intention to come and showed his goodwill to the cat immortal. The cat immortal was already suspicious of Lin Chuan's sudden visit, but now that he heard it, he directly greeted Bulma several times in his heart. For the cat immortal, even if Lin Chuan did nothing after coming to the Earth, he even helped the Earth and took care of Sun Wukong's son and raised him. However, he is a Saiyan from an alien planet after all. The strength is so terrifying that it is beyond control. At this time, once it knows that anything on the Earth is useful to it, it will definitely want to take it as its own. He was angry that Bulma, as a rare genius on Earth, didn't even understand such a simple truth. That's what he thought. In fact, he didn't know that Bulma was much more understanding than him. The cat immortal only saw the surface, and was worried that the time was too short and what he saw were all illusions. Now that things like fairy beans have been exposed, there is no doubt that Lin Chuan wants to keep them for himself. No matter how friendly or nice you are, it's just a cover-up. Cat immortal is not stupid. He is the only one who knows the preciousness of fairy beans. In other words, Sun Wukong and Oculobe never take fairy beans seriously. Sun Wukong has always maintained an innocent heart and has never had any desire to possess anything. This is why he is only willing to give the fairy beans to Sun Wukong for free. Oculobe is a fool. Ever since this guy came to his place, he couldn't drive him away and wouldn't listen to his words. After he had stored the celestial beans for hundreds of years, he calculated the quantity in jars. As a result, in just a few years, there are only a few cans left. If this continues, not only will the fairy beans be eaten as snacks, but if you want to use the fairy beans in the future, you have to see if they grow. Fairy beans are not a common thing. They only grow a few every other year, and it depends more or less on luck. Seeing the reluctance of the cat immortal, Lin Chuan could not make a strong and free demand, so after some negotiations, he finally reached an agreement with the cat immortal. Obtain fairy beans from him, and then use his ability to send him some supplies. For example, his favorite fish, as well as various daily necessities. These alone are not enough to impress the cat immortal. So Lin Chuan directly used his ultimate move. You have eaten fish from Earth, but what about fish from alien planets? The cat immortal's eyes lit up when he heard this, and his voice almost dropped to the floor. In the end, it was Lin Chuan who took away the few remaining jars of fairy beans in the cat immortal's hand. The number was about 30. Using this excuse, Lin Chuan asked why the number was so rare, and the cat immortal told him the reason for the scarcity. Put it on the table. Knowing what's going on, Lin Chuan will have the obligation to take care of it in the future. After all, after taking the first step to free the fairy beans, the second step must be to deal with Oculobe, and then let the cat fairy try his best to plant fairy beans, no longer just planting them casually like before. Time flies, fleeting. A month has passed quietly since I got the fairy beans from the cat immortal and reached an agreement with him in exchange for things. 1 month. To put it into perspective, apart from the occasional trip out, Lin Chuan stayed in the gravity training room to practice. It's been like this for a long time, and it hasn't changed in a day. As of today, his combat power index has reached 5,055,640 points. The unlimited combat power improvement system alone has indeed increased the combat power by more than 2 million points, but it was also Lin Chuan who improved hundreds of thousands of combat power with the help of practice. Together, it exceeded the 5 million combat power mark. A combat power of 5 million. Along the way, Lin Chuan would have felt incredible if he hadn't experienced it personally. Frankly speaking, I transformed into a giant ape a month ago and felt the strength of tens of millions of combatants. But after all, that was the strength after the transformation of the giant ape. Comparing it with the current strength, it is indeed much inferior, but it seems not much different. This also made Lin Chuan consciously confirm one thing. That was him a month ago. His own fighting ability was too poor, so even if his power after transforming into a giant ape could skyrocket to tens of millions of points, the strength he could exert was only a few million points. Now, the humanoid self has exceeded 5 million points of combat power. It seems that there is still a difference of 5 million points in numerical value, but the real level of combat power can completely reach the level of leapfrog combat. Today, Lin Chuan did not continue practicing with gravity. It can be said that Lin Chuan stopped his crazy training yesterday and the day before yesterday. There is no other reason. With the cooperation of Bulma and Breve, the spaceship is finally completed. Not only that, the final stage of short-distance space flight testing was also carried out in the past 2 days. It can be confirmed that the spacecraft is complete and can carry out stable space navigation at any time. Lin Chuan was so happy that he was about to start a new journey, so he stopped practicing and used meditation to combine work and rest to stabilize his level of strength. To put it simply, in fact, until he came to Earth today, he was not anxious to care about the progress of spaceship manufacturing at the beginning, or he wanted to start a new space journey as soon as possible. But as time went by, when things developed to the point where he sent Sun Wuhan away, he began to have some thoughts in his mind. After all, the earlier we arrive at planet Namek, the better the layout will be. And the most important thing is that the Dragon Balls of planet Namek can be reused every 130 days. This means that if he goes earlier, he can use it one more time. This time, it was 3 wishes. Who would object to having so many opportunities to fulfill their wishes? Lin Chuan has too many wishes that he wants to realize, especially the teleportation of Kaioshin, the method of cultivating divine power, the ability of cell regeneration, etc. The Earth's divine dragon has limited abilities and cannot achieve it. At least the current Shenlong can't do it. Therefore, we can only place our hope on Palunga on planet Namek. If even Palunga can't achieve it, then we can only rely on the super dragon. But with his ability, at least at the moment, it is impossible to gather the wishing beads. With such a big wishing bead, even if he was strong enough to easily destroy stars, he would not be able to push a dragon bead the size of a planet. Speaking of which, how did you evaluate the wishing beads in your previous life? This is something that mortals absolutely cannot gather together, and it is also something that mortals cannot use. Only higher gods, only angels, can gather them together and make wishes in the language of God. What's more, the wishing beads span 2 universes. After finishing today's meditation, Lin Chuan left the western capital and headed towards the southern continent according to his plan. A month ago, Sun Wuhan was entrusted to Piccolo. Now that the deadline has expired, the spaceship has been built, and he needs to take it back. Not only must Chi-Chi feel completely at ease, but she must also take Sun Wukong and Piccolo to go to planet Namek. From the beginning, Lin Chuan had already made a plan. Follow the original route. No, change is definitely going to happen. Now is the best opportunity. In fact, since he saved Raditz and asked him to go to the King of Kai to practice with Sun Wukong, he had already begun to change intentionally or unintentionally. It's just that because I just arrived on Earth, many things can't be done clearly, so I didn't take much action. Now, the time has come. At least, some people must first become stronger. Starting with Son Gohan and Piccolo. And he also made an agreement with Piccolo a month ago. After the spaceship is built, he can go with him to his hometown. I believe he will not refuse to go. After all, only by seeing the wider world can we free ourselves from the constraints. Of course, Lin Chuan was a little selfish in letting Piccolo go to planet Namek. Because to the Namekians, Piccolo is the chosen one left behind. If he goes back with his help, he will definitely gain the friendship of the Namekians, and the Great Elder will receive them warmly. Otherwise, they are just pure invaders. There is no need to doubt Piccolo's weight. After all, this is a junior who can be remembered by the Great Elder. Strictly speaking, he is the best Namek warrior in the current era. Of course there is another one, and that is Nelu. Combat strength is 42,000 points. Compared with Piccolo, the gap is still huge. But if Piccolo at this time assimilates with the gods and becomes a human being, surpassing Naru will not be a problem. In any case, in the original work, Piccolo from the future trained on Northern Kaiwang and increased his strength to tens of thousands of points in a short period of time. At least, it is much taller than Naru. Otherwise, Naru would not have said how Piccolo practiced to become so strong. Lin Chuan was quite surprised after not seeing him for a month. It has to be said that not only the relationship between the two parties has been very good in a short period of time, but not only Piccolo's strength has increased to 2,900 points, but Son Gohan's combat effectiveness has also increased from 1,395 points to 2,000 points. After 1 month of practice, he has reached this level of strength, which is extraordinary. If you know the original work, it took them nearly a year to reach 3,500 points for Piccolo and less than 1,000 points for Sun Wukong. Of course, Sun Wukong was influenced by Professor Lin Chuan, but Piccolo could only feel a few waves of pressure and relied purely on himself. After some exchanges, Lin Chuan informed him of his intention and sincerely invited Piccolo. This kind of opportunity could only be thought about before, but now it has really come. Piccolo hesitated for a while, but Son Gohan persuaded him because he and Piccolo had already established a relationship. In this way, Piccolo agreed with Sun Wukong's Uncle Piccolo. Reaching a consensus, the three of them returned to the western capital together. Needless to say, Piccolo's temperament has indeed changed because of Son Gohan. Is this the function of luck? Lin Chuan was also like this when he was coaching Sun Wukong, and he was gradually and subtly changed. It can be said that Piccolo's arrival directly scared Bulma's family. Of course, there are also Chi-Chi and the Bull Demon King who are waiting for Gohan's return. Fortunately, Lin Chuan's explanation and his words perfectly resolved the embarrassment and hostility, and included Piccolo in this trip to planet Namek. Naturally, everyone can understand the reason why Lin Chuan did this. After all, Piccolo is indeed a Namekian. There is nothing wrong with going to Namek and taking him with you. In general, the shock brought by Piccolo in this era is still too sufficient. They all witnessed the battle 5 years ago with their own eyes, and their memories are still fresh and unforgettable. At the same time, Temple of Heaven. The god Piccolo noticed the actions of Piccolo and Son Gohan, so he focused his attention. He happened to hear about leaving the Earth and going to planet Namek, which shook his heart, which had not shaken in many years. Before he and Bic separated, he had been waiting for the arrival of his family, and had been longing to return to his hometown. Now, hundreds of years have passed, and this matter has finally come to light, causing the divine state of mind he had maintained for hundreds of years to collapse in an instant. He also wanted to go back and have a look. But he can't. Because he is the god of the earth, his responsibility prevents him from leaving the earth again in his life. It can be said that his fate has long been intertwined with the earth. Moreover, the Saiyan invasion is imminent. Even if he can leave the Earth at this time, he is unwilling to leave. As a god, he has absolute awareness. Although he can come back before the Saiyans invade, he has an arduous task. He must improve the strength of this group of Earth's martial arts disciples as much as possible and strive for more protection for the Earth. A short period of more than a month, nearly 2 months. Piccolo, the god, has already seen the talents of Klin, Tianjin Fan, Yamcha, and Dumpling. Perhaps they are still not as good as Piccolo and Sun Wukong at this time, but based on the data detected by the combat power detector that Krillin obtained from Lin Chuan, except for Dumpling, all 3 of them have exceeded 1,000 combat power points. 5 years ago, he was so powerful that he could crush everything, even the great demon King Piccolo was nothing. This is achieved through hard training day and night, and breakthroughs made through constant battles every day. In the final analysis, it was because of Lin Chuan's relationship with the butterfly that it put a lot of pressure on them, giving them greater momentum and greater goals. Otherwise, in the original work, until the Saiyans attacked, Tianjin Fan, who had the highest combat power, would have reached 1830 points. Klin is second with 1,770 points. Yamcha is weaker, 1,480 points. The final Dumpling was 610 points. It is enough to show that their potential is terrifying and their talents are outstanding. However, the original work only reached that level of strength because the pressure was not enough. It is certain that if this continues, they will definitely become stronger in the future. They are all working hard to become stronger and are not afraid of hardships. But there is one person who has been selectively given up by the god Piccolo. There is no doubt that this man is Akylo. After arriving at the Tianshan temple, he would cooperate with him in practicing seriously at the beginning, but later he would simply fail. No matter what you do, eating comes first. In fact, if he continued to practice wholeheartedly, his strength would at least be comparable to that of Yamcha and Krillin. But now, it's not even as good as Dumpling's. Dumpling's combat power has exceeded 500 points. But he only had less than 400 points. Others don't know it, but God Piccolo knows very well that Akylobe's talent is actually no less than anyone else's. But even he couldn't correct his character, so he had no choice but to prevent him from dragging down everyone's cultivation progress. In fact, it was the God Piccolo who was too persistent. In terms of cultivation, no one can blame him. In the final analysis, it should be decided by people themselves whether they want to become stronger or not. Forcibly dragging people into cultivation and placing the responsibility on them is a bit of a moral kidnapping. Akylobe's character is indeed not very good, and his existence has eaten up the fairy beans. But, at the end of the day, he just wants to live a carefree life. Eating immortal food and living a lofty life like an immortal, who the hell would want to suffer so much to practice? In Akylobe's concept, saving the world can be left to Sun Wukong, Krillin, and the others. The concept is this concept. It seems that Akylobe was also worried about the future, so he went to practice to become stronger. Otherwise, how could his combat power reach 970 points during Vegeta's attack? It's not as good as the Klin Yamuti Tianjin rice, but it's still powerful enough to surpass the previous era. It's just that times are changing so fast that a lot of the light has been obscured. Let's take the Era of the Earth chapter as an example. It's no problem for nearly 1,000 warriors to dominate the Earth, but Demon King Piccolo is a scumbag in front of this power. After all, he is also the last character who is qualified to compete with Krillin as the strongest person on Earth. You said Yamcha is also one. Yamcha tried hard but still lost to Klin, and later she even gave up on her own initiative. Therefore, Akylobe is the last candidate. The other side. Hell, the end of the snake path. After a month and a half of running, Sun Wukong and Raditz finally arrived here today. Compared to the original work in which Sun Wukong ran alone for half a year, it can be said to be several times faster. Ultimately, falling down the snake path was a blessing in disguise. They ate the fruit that only King Yama and God could eat, and under Raditz's force, they both ate several fruits until they couldn't eat any more. This wave of operations not only made them energetic and not hungry for more than a month, but also greatly improved their own strength. Only then did they arrive in such a short period of time. At this time, the two of them stood side by side, looking up towards the top of Wonkwon. A small planet is just suspended over there. For ordinary people, even if they have certain strength, they may not be able to go up if they can't fly. But for Sun Wukong and Raditz, it is naturally not a problem. After more than a month, the two brothers have adjusted their personalities. However, although he is no longer so conceited, Raditz still hasn't completely given up on his habit of being aloof from his superior warriors. Let's go. We have to hurry up and see the king of the realm. I hope I won't be disappointed. Raditz took the lead and levitated directly into the sky. Seeing this, Sun Wukong hurriedly shouted, "Wait for me." The next second, he used Wukong technique to catch up. The two of them approached northern Kaiwang, and a gravity 10 times that of the Earth suddenly swept over them. Raditz was okay. He was surprised for a while and then quickly stood up. Sun Wukong didn't react and almost fell to the ground. After all, Sun Wukong has never been to an alien planet and has grown up in the Earth's gravity environment. Even if he is strong enough, 10 times the gravity will affect him. Earth. After Lin Chuan brought Sun Wuhan and Piccolo back, Bulma spent another 2 days purchasing all the needed supplies. Originally, we could set off early in the morning, but just to have a more comfortable interstellar journey, we wasted this time. In fact, this is just what Bulma and Chi-Chi want. For Lin Chuan, Piccolo, and Sun Wufan, what about the long interstellar voyage? Even if it takes a long time, they will only spend it on cultivation. What's more, this journey can reach the destination in 5 or 6 days. How to determine the specific location of planet Namek? This naturally means that Frieza's army's spaceship has the exact coordinates. The original work relied on the coordinates provided by the North Kaio, and then used the spaceship that Piccolo had brought to Earth in the early years. Now that Lin Chuan has arrived, there are too many ways to obtain the location. Even if it wasn't in Frieza's Legion's spaceship, he knew the exact location. Because he had studied it for a long time in his previous life. The fourth planet in the 27th main galaxy of the Vega constellation, the coordinates are SU-83 and 9045XY. Chi-Chi wants to go too. Definitely. In the original work, Sun Gohan went to planet Namek with Bulma Krillin, and Chi-Chi was supposed to follow him. But in order to take care of Sun Wukong's injury, she had to bear the pain and say goodbye instead of going with him. This time, no Monkey King was injured, and there was no interference from any trivial matters. Lin Chuan naturally didn't mind her going too. After all, it's not a big deal, and it won't be a drag on this industry. Overall, it would be a good thing if Chi-Chi went, because she could take care of all of them by herself. No one can compare to this. The portrayal of Chi-Chi's housewife is even more remarkable in the Super era. It can only be said that Sun Wukong really doesn't care enough about his wife. Many of the negativity comes from not understanding and not communicating well. Near the research institute behind the manor. Large launch base. After the last batch of supplies was loaded onto the spaceship, the group of 5 people got ready for departure, said goodbye to everyone who was seeing them off, and stepped onto the spaceship. This spaceship is different from the one Sun Wukong boarded in the original work. Originally, the shape and structure of the spacecraft was based on Bribe's design. However, with Lin Chuan's intervention and some suggestions on the shape of the spaceship, Bulma transformed it into a disc shape. Firstly, all the space can be used, and secondly, it is more convenient to add a few more special rooms. Just like Frieza's Emperor, but much smaller in comparison. This spaceship is indeed very big, and the diameter of the cabin has reached 50 meters. But Frieza's Emperor was a large battleship with a diameter of several hundred meters. Even ordinary high-end spaceships have reached around 100 meters. Go inside the spaceship. What comes into view is an open area. This is a temporary activity area and a temporary storage point. To facilitate the transportation of goods, vehicles can even be parked. Of course, there is no need to park now, as all necessities are stored in the universal capsule. Even spaceships can be included in capsules. It is worth mentioning that the universal capsule was improved once again by Bulma. Because the last time the spaceship was transported, the jet could not be transformed into a capsule, so she strengthened this limit. As a result, not only the usable space was larger, but the limitations became smaller. Bulma also had a sudden idea under Lin Chuan's suggestion and created a portable universal capsule. As long as it is some object, As long as it is dead, you can use a portable capsule to lock it into the capsule space. Of course, this limit cannot be too large and can only be below 100 meters. Walking forward, after passing a passage of nearly 10 meters, we found the huge central control room. The total space is circular, with a diameter of about 15 meters and a height of more than 10 meters. The circular space is surrounded by arc-shaped structures except that the ceiling and floor are parallel. It is divided into 2 levels of space, upper and lower. On the first floor, there are 4 storage rooms, public toilets, maintenance rooms, living rooms, etc. On the second floor, in addition to a few necessary leisure areas, there are several gravity training rooms equipped by Bulma, which were built in accordance with Lin Chuan's requirements. Overall, the entire spaceship can be said to be almost perfect. I have to admire that Bulma and Breve have top-notch minds. Just come up with an idea and you can quickly implement it. Okay, are you all ready? Our journey to planet Namek is about to begin. Following Bulma's order, Lin Chuan and Bike felt a little embarrassed. It was Sun Wuhan and Chi-Chi who started to look forward to it. A cold person will remain calm and silent even if he experiences something he has never experienced before. Of course, Lin Chuan is not the aloof type, he simply doesn't act that silly. Along with the sound of the engine, the spacecraft shook violently. After a few dozen seconds, it rushed directly out of the Earth's atmosphere and rushed towards the depths of the universe. The start was not very fast, because Gohan said that he wanted to see other planets in the solar system, and also wanted to see the sun up close. Lin Chuan was not interested in this. Once you enter space navigation, you no longer need to sit in a safe seat. In fact, he doesn't have to sit down at all, but since everyone is sitting down, he should cooperate. As soon as he left, Piccolo immediately loosened his seatbelt and walked to the front of the spaceship. Here you can see the scene in the universe through the glass-like projection. This was also a huge shock to him. It was unimaginable before that we would leave the Earth and embark on an interstellar journey. After ending the low-speed cruise in the solar system and satisfying all Sun Wuhan's curiosity, Bulma started the spaceship's super-speed navigation mode. Once the target location is determined, the spacecraft's intelligence system will automatically navigate, which is extremely advanced. It will take 6 days to get to planet Namek. Uncle Lin Chuan, Uncle Piccolo, during this time, can we also practice in the spaceship? Sun Wuhan is a sensible child. He knew that Piccolo would be embarrassed here, so he took the initiative to mention training. Hearing this, Lin Chuan smiled knowingly. Piccolo smiled the same way. You kid, you feel uncomfortable even if you don't practice for a day, right? I don't mind, but I don't know if it's okay. Piccolo focused his attention on Lin Chuan. Hearing this, Lin Chuan smiled again and was about to speak when Bulma took the initiative to speak. I'm really convinced by you people. We've just stabilized the channel and you can't wait to practice. Can't you just stop and stop? And, even if you want to practice, please go to the practice room. Training room. I see. Is there a training room set up in the spaceship? Piccolo asked in surprise. I asked Bulma to make this specifically for the long journey in the universe. Come on, I'll take you to experience gravity training first. I believe you will be very excited. Lin Chuan already had an idea. Let Piccolo and Son Gohan practice gravity for 6 days. How strong will they be when they get to planet Namek? As the spacecraft completely leaves the solar system, Lin Chuan began to try gravity training with Piccolo and Sun Wuhan. For them, what they had been exposed to before was the kind of arduous training they could imagine. Now combined with the shock brought by technology and hard work, they immediately felt that if they could practice here, they would definitely become stronger faster. In particular, Lin Chuan also mentioned that the original planet Vegeta had 10 times the gravity of the Earth. Moreover, the gravity of Northern Kaio, where Northern Kaio is located, is 10 times the gravity of Earth. Piccolo is confused about Northern Kaio and Northern Kaio. Lin Chuan also realized that he was not involved in the plot of the Temple of Heaven, so he would never know. After some explanations, Piccolo became even more excited. Because he now knows everything and has a training artifact like the gravity training room, he can completely surpass Sun Wukong and Raditz. So what if there was someone like the Northern Kai King to train him? Bike is not a vegetarian either. At this point, Piccolo and Son Gohan's gravity training began. Start with 10x gravity. Lin Chuan was surprised that Chi-Chi didn't mind that Sun Wuhan was training with Piccolo. I don't know how she figured it out. All in all, Lin Chuan felt that it was not just his fault. Bulma must have done something that Lin Chuan didn't know about. At the same time, located in the most supreme realm of God in the entire 7th universe. It's not Kaioshin realm, but destroy the divine world. I saw a tall and slender being, wearing an angel god's robe and holding a special scepter, talking to a strange-looking fish. They are none other than the angel Whis, and the pet of the god of destruction Beerus, the prophetic fish that can predict the future. Not bad, not bad. The cultivation of new tea trees this time has been very successful. The tea is fragrant and refreshing in the mouth, with a hint of freshness and no trace of impurities. Angel Weiss and the prophetic fish were sitting on the stone table, eating delicious snacks and sipping tea. As life forms of their level, their lifespans are already endless. Especially for a being like Weiss, it seems that he lives the same life every day, but in fact he comes up with some new tricks every day to kill the long boring time. This time it is about cultivating a top tea tree. Isn't it? After all, this is tea that only gods can taste. According to the appearance this time, it is at least twice as good as the last time. Just one piece, the energy contained in the tea is quite ridiculous, and it can not only improve your strength, develop your potential to comprehend divine power, and at least add a few hundred years to your life. The prophetic fish interjected. Weiss did not take such comments seriously. He smiled and took a sip of tea. It was at this time that a sudden change occurred. Boom! A shocking loud noise spread throughout the entire god of destruction realm. Above the angel Weiss and the prophecy fish, at the top of the cosmic tree, is the location of the god of destruction's palace. The rich firelight continued to spread out, showing how terrifying the power of the explosion was. You must know that this is the destruction god realm. How intense is it? This tree is still a cosmic tree. It's not something that can be damaged casually. Really, Lord Beerus's temper is getting more and more irritable now. He will cause such a big noise every once in a while. When he was sleeping before, he was quite peaceful. Looking at the explosion flames dissipating in the sky, the prophet fish complained. There is nothing we can do about this. New negative energy is growing in the universe all the time. Lord Beerus wiped out most of the negative energy in the universe before falling asleep. He consumed too much divine power and energy and slept dishonestly. It's really normal. Weiss' explanation was spot on. After all, this is the reason why this sleep lasts for decades. I think it's not just like this. No matter how tired Mr. Beerus was in the past, he wouldn't sleep in such a bad state. It's been so many years since he fell asleep this time. On average, he would sneeze every once in a while. It's almost become a habit. The prophet fish kept complaining. Regarding this, Weiss seemed to have realized something again and laughed. What you said is not bad, maybe this has something to do with you. Weiss smiled mysteriously, and his words made the prophecy fish a little confused. Is it related to me? The little eyes of the prophet fish were full of doubts. I remember you made a prophecy before Lord Beerus fell asleep, saying that when Lord Beerus wakes up this time, he will encounter a destined enemy. Whis said. Is Lord Beerus a powerful enemy? Is there such a thing? The prophecy fish fell into deep thought, and its body kept flopping and rolling in the fish tank. After thinking about it for a while, I finally thought of nothing. There is no way. Fish's memory is like this, even he can't remember many things. He couldn't remember, but Weiss didn't pursue it, and just continued. It seems that you are talking about Super Saiyan God. Therefore, over the years, I have deliberately paid attention to the Saiyans living in the universe. Thinking of this, Weiss also became interested. He picked up the angel's scepter in his right hand and felt a little empty. Use special abilities to scan the entire universe to search for the whereabouts of Saiyans. Soon, a projection appeared. Above is a father and son hunting for prey on a deserted planet. If Lin Chuan were here at this moment, he would definitely be able to recognize who these two people are. The legendary Super Saiyan, Broly, and his father, Paragus. These are two Saiyan survivors living on Wampa planet. One of them does contain good strength. It is very likely that he is. However, this planet is a primitive planet. If nothing else, there is no way to leave, otherwise we will not continue to live a primitive life. Weiss murmured to himself, waving the scepter in his hand, and the projection changed. The picture projected this time was that of a short, thin Saiyan. Vegeta's younger brother, Tarbal. The little prince of the Saiyan clan, he was lucky enough to survive. Unfortunately, his talent and potential are not outstanding, and he is not a fighting Saiyan. In comparison, his brother is pretty good, Vegeta. The screen switched again and came to the universe. 2 circular Frieza army spaceships are traveling through space. Inside the spaceship, the 2 Saiyans were in a dormant state. If it's not Vegeta and Nappa, then who is it? Whis took a serious look at Vegeta, intentionally or unintentionally, and then waved the scepter again. Hell, the projected images were of Raditz and Sun Wukong who were practicing on the North Kaio planet. Raditz did not die according to the normal trajectory, but went to the North Kaio to practice with Sun Wukong. The most important thing is that people who should have died did not die, but lived. The most stable space-time node seems to have undergone different changes. As an angel, Whis was surprised for the first time in his history. His existence is beyond the universe, beyond life and death, beyond the constraints of rules. He has even experienced the destruction and restart of the universe countless times. He can see the past and future, and can also travel between parallel worlds of the past and future. These 2 Saiyans are really amazing. They are able to enter the underworld as living people, and they are still training under the King of Kai. Looking at you, you seem to care about them. Is there anything special about you? Your strength seems to be average. The voice of the prophetic fish sounded, and his words interrupted Whis' thinking. Ho 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 ho, there are infinite possibilities in them. They are indeed very weak now, but it won't take long before the future of our time and space will become extremely exciting. Whis. He narrowed his eyes and waved the angel scepter. Instead of stopping at Northern Kaiwang, it moved to Earth. What has happened is projected like God's perspective. Astonishingly, these are some of the major events that have occurred on Earth in the past 2 months. Such a situation shows that Whis has been paying attention to the situation on the Earth from a long time ago. It can also be said that he, who is omnipotent and omniscient, has long seen the future of this time and space, so he understands everything. Important scenes flashed across the projection quickly, and finally it was transferred to a large spaceship rushing out of the Earth and heading straight into the depths of the universe. As the picture cuts in, the scene inside the spaceship at this time is revealed. It's really unexpected. Not only have I never paid attention to this Saiyan, but he also seems to have some kind of power to break the situation. Seeing the person frozen in the projection screen, Whis expressed his feelings. For him, there are only a few key objects that he pays attention to. Even though there are still some Saiyan survivors in the universe, he has always ignored them. The eyesight of angels is so terrifying, and they can see the past and the future in the long river of time. How can they not know which people are blessed with luck? How could we not know who can break the rules and create greater possibilities? Talos, that is, Lin Chuan, was imprisoned on planet V3114 and could not leave, and could not intervene in the main plot, so it was impossible for him to enter the eyes of an existence like Whis from the beginning. Only now, everything has changed. Staring at Lin Chuan in the picture, Whis' expression seemed unchanged, but in fact there was caution in his eyes. The gears of fate were quietly changed by him. If this continues, I don't know if this is a good thing or a bad thing. In the future, there may be a place for him. He is a special case. After sighing in his heart, Whis used the angel scepter to look at other places in the universe, and finally took back the angel's power. Wes, who do you think among the Saiyans you just projected will be the Super Saiyan God? The prophecy fish didn't know what Whis was thinking, but he didn't care, he had his own ideas, so I asked curiously. No one can say for sure what will happen in the future, maybe, it could be all, maybe, it could be no one. Whis smiled, put down the angel scepter, and continued to enjoy afternoon tea. Confused by what Whis said, the prophecy fish swayed for a while, then stopped thinking about it and ate the dessert. Nether. In the universe, no one who was noticed by Whis would know that a supreme being stayed on their body for a moment. Especially Lin Chuan, he understands the plot of the original work and the horror of those super beings. If he knew that Whis was paying attention to him at this time, he would definitely feel fear in his heart. After all, he is a time traveler, and if he is spotted, his life may be in danger. To put it simply, even if he is a Saiyan now, as long as it is known that he is a time traveler, it will be a virus to the world. The most powerful person in the world, those managers will not watch the virus spread and develop, so they will definitely kill him. Thanks to Lin Chuan, he has always been able to intervene in the plot steadily and make changes in subtle ways. There are not many big flaws to follow. That's all. Time flies and 6 days pass in the blink of an eye. In the universe, it is located in the 27th main galaxy of the Vega constellation. The spaceship that Lin Chuan and others were on finally arrived at its destination, arriving on the surface of Namek, the 4th planet in the galaxy. The spaceship is parked in space. Panoramic projection allows Lin Chuan, Bulma, Piccolo, Sun Wuhan, and Chi-Kiru to stand in the universe and see the appearance of the planet in all aspects. As this planet Namek, from this distance, it is much larger than the Earth. Bulma was the first to make a comment. She has made achievements in any field, and she can see that the size of this Namek planet is probably not comparable to that of 10 Earths put together. She also hurriedly took out her space voyage diary from her arms and recorded everything she saw and the data in it. Planet Namek, this is my hometown. Touched by emotion, Piccolo took a deep breath and tried his best to maintain a calm mind. Somehow, he felt something, as if the planet was resonating with him. It seemed to be telling him from the bottom of his heart that this was his home. It's unbelievable. There are 3 huge stars on the edge of the Namek planet. No wonder Uncle Lin Chuan said that there is no night on the Namek planet. There is no blind spot of sunlight. There is no night on the planet at all. Sun Wuhan looked at other scenes. During this trip, he not only practiced gravity all the time, but also conducted in-depth exploration of the universe in his free time, and saw many sights that were impossible to see before. Beside him, Chi-Chi breathed a sigh of relief and said nothing. When planet Namek arrived, it meant that their journey was temporarily over. Although I will stay on this planet for a while, I can breathe fresh air in a short period of time. Regarding space travel, Chi-Chi still couldn't accept it, and she felt that she was not living a down-to-earth life. Especially since she left the Earth, she has been uneasy. Okay, let's go to the control room and prepare. We'll land on Namek first. At Bulma's order, the panoramic mode was turned off, and the group quickly returned to the control room from the observation deck and sat down. At this moment, on Namek, a group of Namekians who were working suddenly saw a flash of fire in the sky. Then, a spaceship came out of the sky and flew over their heads. This scene immediately attracted everyone's attention, and they immediately became alert. That's an outsider, a spaceship. A fighting-type Namekian in his prime had an ominous premonition in his heart and warned everyone. Feeling something bad, he planned to go and have a look. Everyone, go back to the village temporarily and tell the elder to contact the Great Elder. I'll go check on the situation. The next second, the combat-type Namekian flew out at full speed, following behind the spaceship. Planet Namek, the top of a cliff somewhere in the Middle East. A huge white round house with a special shape is located here. Here, lives the most senior elder on planet Namek. Normally, the Great Elder usually spends this time in sleep. But today, the Great Elder did not fall asleep. Instead, he had a premonition of the arrival of some people and took the initiative to summon Nelu, who was guarding him. He is too old to move freely. When his longevity was about to come to an end, he used his inherited special ability to predict the future. After seeing the corners of the future, he originally thought that he would have to suffer for a while before he could truly be relieved of his burden. But he didn't expect a sudden change. In his sleep in the past few days, he had been dreaming continuously, and new pictures kept appearing in his mind. Let him know that the future he thought he could predict for a long time is undergoing huge changes with the emergence of some unstable factors. Master Great Elder, what are your orders? Nelu stood in front of the Great Elder with a respectful expression and asked. As the best warrior among the Namekians, he has been guarding the Great Elder since he came of age, ensuring the Great Elder's safety. Naru, we have welcomed some alien guests on Namek. As the words came out of his mouth, his weak voice showed that the Great Elder at this time was almost the same as he was a year later. Also, Namekians have long lifespans. In 1 or 2 years, not much has changed. Therefore, Although there is still more than a year to live, it is insignificant compared to the Great Elder's long life. Hearing this, Nelu reacted immediately and asked seriously, "Is this the crisis of genocide that you predicted in the past, Great Elder, is coming?" Genocide crisis. Indeed, it is such a catastrophe for the Namekians. The Great Elder once said it himself, and it also showed that the Namekians alone cannot solve the crisis. However, the prophecy at that time was that in times of crisis, powerful alien warriors would appear to help them defeat powerful enemies. No, it's not yet time before the crisis arrives. The alien guests who came this time should not be enemies. At least there are no evil thoughts in their aura. Moreover, I feel that among them, there is a person from our family who has been living abroad. They are not here to invade. Sunairu, go and pick them up, to avoid unnecessary conflicts and bring them directly to me. Perhaps future crises will be better solved because of the arrival of this group of people. The Great Elder ordered Nelu. Such words made Nelu's heart tense. He knew that this matter should not be handled carelessly, but he also had to carry out the orders of the Great Elder. Yes, Great Elder. Then I'll go right away. Turning around, Nelu walked out of the Great Elder's room with a heavy heart. He walked outside the house and said to the two companions who were also guarding the Great Elder, "I need to go out to carry out the tasks assigned to me by the Great Elder, so the guarding work will be left to you two for the time being. Don't worry, we will protect the Great Elder. You go ahead, Naru." The two nodded. In the next second, Nelu flew into the sky and left here. In his perception, he already knew where the target was, and with the spiritual power of the Great Elder to point the direction, he would not make a mistake. The other side. After gliding for hundreds of miles in the sky, the spacecraft finally stabilized and landed at the designated location. As the spaceship landed, the hatch quickly opened, and 5 people stepped out of the spaceship one after another. Because planet Namek is a planet made up of countless islands, at a glance, it feels like entering an infinite cycle of worlds. Although each island is different, they are all similar. Is this the real landform of Namek? Although it is very different from what you said before, the environment here does not seem to be as desolate and barren as you said. There are still a lot of animals and plants alive, right? Bulma immediately paid attention to the surrounding environment and asked Lin Chuan at the same time. The information they knew before was all verbally told to them by Lin Chuan. Now that I have seen it with my own eyes, there are still some differences. What I said is just what I know. The information is not wrong. It is rumored that Namek experienced a mass extinction a long time ago. There were very few Namekians who survived the disaster. I think the past Piccolo was sent to Earth when that disaster occurred. As for the reason why this planet looks like it does now and is also glowing with vitality, I think it must have something to do with the current Namekians. As Lin Chuan spoke, he looked into the distance. In his sense of breath, he could detect someone approaching quickly. He must have seen the arrival of the spaceship, so he took the initiative to investigate the situation. The other party was well hidden, that is to say, Lin Chuan was extremely powerful and enveloped the whole world immediately, otherwise he would not have been discovered. On the side, Sun Wuhan and Chi-Chi expressed their emotions after Lin Chuan and Bulma. Lin Chuan didn't answer because he was talking about comments about the environment of planet Namek and what he thought of this planet. On the contrary, he and Bulma have something in common. Where's Piccolo? At this time, he calmed down and looked at the surrounding environment. Perhaps it was instinct, or perhaps it was scattered memory fragments flashing through his inherited memory. The scene stirred up emotion, giving him an indescribable feeling. It's almost here, everyone has temporarily recovered. Especially you, Piccolo, your tribe is here, get ready to meet. Lin Chuan smiled slightly, and the chi he felt was extremely close, and he reminded everyone. The most important thing, of course, was to tease Piccolo. Hearing this, Piccolo was startled, his aura perception expanded, and he indeed noticed a very powerful aura approaching. In fact, this is thanks to the fact that his strength is no longer what it used to be, otherwise he would not be able to lock it with his breath so quickly. Piccolo is no longer the Piccolo he was 6 days ago. After 6 days of cosmic travel and 6 days of gravity training, Piccolo and Son Gohan completed 60 times the gravity training together. The gravity increases 10 times every day. Although it only reaches 60 times the gravity, it also makes the strength of the two people improve by leaps and bounds. Coupled with Lin Chuan's guidance, the battle with them successfully stimulated some of their respective potentials. Overall, although it was not as high as expected, Piccolo's combat power index reached 45,000 points, and Son Gohan's combat power also broke through to 32,000 points. Of course, such a quick breakthrough was also related to Lin Chuan giving them some fairy beans. When they are tired, sleepy or injured, a fairy bean can directly resurrect them with full blood, which will greatly increase their strength. Therefore, brushing bugs is not the prerogative of Saiyans. Piccolo's potential is equally terrifying, otherwise, he would not have gone to Northern Kaiwang after his death in the original Saiyan invasion chapter, and relied on his own training to gain tens of thousands of combat power in a short period of time. It should be noted that after he was resurrected, he arrived at the planet Namek and happened to meet the dying Naru. Nilu's comment was, "I really can't believe how you practiced to become so powerful." Then, after receiving Nilu's approval and entrustment, he was assimilated, and his strength increased by more than 10 times, reaching and exceeding 1,000,000 level combat power. Therefore, after 6 days of adapting to 60 times the gravity, his combat power was only 45,000 points, which Lin Chuan felt was low. After all, there was Lin Chuan's assistance and guidance, both intentional and unintentional. All I can say is that there is less pressure on me and I have experienced less things. Breakthroughs in certain realms may require special methods. It's like truly experiencing life and death. Besides, Sun Wuhan, although his strength continues to improve, he has only reached 32,000 points, which is really low. Originally, Lin Chuan believed that Sun Wuhan could use gravity training and Saiyan's bug talent to reach a combat power of more than 50,000 points. As a result, let alone 50,000 points, the final 40,000 points were not even reached, just over 30,000 points. Of course, this also has something to do with the fact that he has little time to practice. Lin Chuan and Piccolo have been practicing non-stop, and no one can restrain them. But Sun Wuhan is different. Firstly, he is still a child, and secondly, because Chi-Chi keeps watching, he will not be allowed to continue practicing once the time is up. Lin Chuan and Bike couldn't say anything about this. Could it be forced? After all, she is a mother, and it's not that she doesn't want her son to practice, she just allows her son to combine work and rest. Not to mention these, in short, with the current strength of Piccolo and Son Gohan, they can defeat Nappa and Vegeta, who will arrive on Earth 10 months later. Let alone Vegeta, even if he encounters Dodoria and Sabo, Frieza's right-hand men, he can defeat him in seconds. Except for Ginyu, all of the Ginyu special forces can fight head-on and will never lose. Times are moving forward, and things are indeed different from before. As for Piccolo and Sun Wufan, they followed Lin Chuan and were directly influenced by Lin Chuan, and their strength entered a later era. After determining the location of the breath, Piccolo turned around and looked towards the source of the breath. Son Gohan, Chi-Chi, and Bulma also turned and looked at him. In the distant sky, a figure continued to zoom in, finally revealing the sturdy Namekian warrior. This person has reached a very high level of energy control and has incredible abilities in perception. It seemed that he knew that he had been locked, so he did not intend to hide. He rushed towards this place at an extremely fast speed, and finally landed in front of the 5 people. Except for slightly different body shape and appearance, everything else is almost exactly the same as Piccolo. After sensing the aura emanating from this Namekian warrior at close range, it can be determined that his strength is definitely more powerful than Raditz when he first came to Earth. Lin Chuan could see the combat power data in his eyes, which was as high as 3,000 points. Compared to Piccolo before setting off, he was slightly more powerful. Of course, the actual combat power level cannot be compared. Son Gohan exclaimed, "He is indeed a Namekian, just like Uncle Piccolo." Bulma joked, "If I had seen this before, it would have scared people to death, another big demon King Piccolo." The two voices made the visitor frown. However, he immediately focused on Piccolo. "An outsider, and a compatriot I've never seen before, where are you from?" Looking at Piccolo, although the hostility was no longer so severe, he still looked at everyone with vigilance. "Don't worry, we are not intruders." Piccolo took a step forward and said, looking at the strong fellow tribesman in front of him. The cloak draped around his shoulders fluttered in the wind, making him look very domineering. Coupled with the intentional and unintentional aura, no one would believe him if he was not showing off. Sensing the aura emanating from Piccolo, the Namekian looked shocked and unbelievable. Could it be that you were one of the children who were sent away from the planet in the great disaster many years ago? Whose child are you? There are actually such a powerful force. No, even if you were sent away at that time, your age. After feeling Piccolo's strength, the Namekian was immediately stunned. He made a guess, but it was unrealistic. Because so many years have passed since that big change, even those who were sent away from the planet at that time should be old by now. How did he know what Piccolo had gone through? This matter is a long story. In short, we are from the Earth, and I grew up on the Earth. Piccolo answered. His kind communication surprised Lin Chuan and others beyond their expectations. Although Piccolo has indeed changed, it is also because the 6 days of getting along are more harmonious. But Piccolo is still Piccolo, and he still has his aloofness. Is that so? Anyway, as a member of the same tribe, you are welcome to go home. Also, my name is Al. The Namekian introduced himself. Biko. Piccolo also said his name. After a few exchanges, the vigilance was completely let down. Al was the first to ask, are they all from Earth? Did they send you back? That's right. Piccolo's expression didn't change much. I see. Since I am your friend, I am completely relieved. As long as you are not an enemy, you are a guest of our Namekians. Al returned to being a simple-minded. It was as if the serious person with a solemn face had never appeared before. It can be seen that the Namekians will behave very friendly once they are sure that there is no threat. This is also related to the rule of the Great Elder for so many years. Almost all Namekians are children created by him. We adhere to the principle that we will not offend others unless they offend us. If someone offends us, we must also determine whether we can resolve the matter in a friendly manner. If this is not possible, we will use force to suppress it. Hello, my name is Sun Wuhan. Chi-Chi, she is this child's mother. You can call me Bulma, Earth's super genius scientist. Linchuan, after a series of self-introductions. Al sincerely invites the group to visit his village and rest. He also explained to them the current situation of Namek planet and the distribution of tribes. Just as he was about to take action, Lin Chuan sensed another extremely strong aura approaching rapidly. Someone's here again. It is certain that the owner of this aura has a combat power that is at least comparable to that of Piccolo at full strength. On the Namek planet, Lin Chuan couldn't think of anyone else except Nelu, who had a combat power of over 40,000 points. As he expected, the person who came was none other than Nelu, the strongest warrior of Namek's current era. Al was surprised by Naru's arrival, but he calmed down and asked. Naru, you also saw the arrival of the spaceship, so did you come over to check on the situation? I have basically confirmed just now that they are alien guests from the Earth, and they have also sent back our tribesmen who were left behind. Following Al's introduction, Naru nodded. Well, the Great Elder has foreseen the situation in advance, so he sent me to take them to meet them. Nairu explained his purpose straightforwardly. These words surprised Al, and he immediately said respectfully, so, does the Great Elder already know about it? Then I will go with you. After the words fell, before he could continue to say anything, Nelu shook his head. No, you can go back to your tribe first. The safety of the Great Elder is protected by us. In contrast, in the recent period, you should not leave. The tribe is too long and too far away. As these words came out of his mouth, Al clearly understood what Nairu wanted to express. A few years ago, they were convened by the Great Elder and given their own arduous tasks. No one could act without permission. Understood, then I'll go back first. Nodding, Al turned to look at Lin Xuanbek and his party, and said goodbye with a smile. The Great Elder wants to meet you, so I can't force you to go to the tribe to rest. Nilu is the most powerful warrior of our clan, and he will escort you all the way. When Al left, even Piccolo Linchuan, an outsider, could not stop him. After all, even Piccolo, who is also a Namekian, is temporarily an outsider. After sending Al away, Naru's eyes swept over everyone. Finally, his eyes fell on Piccolo. As expected, they care more about people of the same clan. Even though Lin Chuan's body exudes an aura that makes people have to take him seriously, it can't compare to a member of the same clan whose strength is comparable to his own. The most important thing is that this clansman still has strong strength gained from practicing on alien planets. He was looking at everyone, and everyone was looking at him carefully. Especially Piccolo. After their eyes met, Piccolo's aloofness was more vividly displayed. Piccolo never thinks that he will lose to others, especially after his own strength continues to increase. He knew that Nelu was extremely powerful. If he hadn't been practicing desperately in the gravity training room these days, and with the help of Lin Chuan, he would have been an ant when he was still on Earth alone. Returning tribesmen and guests from afar, please come with me. Nelu took the initiative to speak, breaking the calm. Without hesitation, Lin Chuan and Piccolo nodded one after another, followed by Sun Wuhan. After Bulma and Chi-Chi confirmed that they wanted to go together, they quickly put the spaceship back into the capsule, and then took out the jet. This was something Bulma had prepared a long time ago, and it was an upgraded version of the jet. Times have changed. The previous jets were too slow, so the improved jets are several times faster and will no longer be limited by height issues. It can be said that this is also Bulma's fulfillment of what she said under the Kalen Tower as promised. The purpose is to use the technological power at his disposal to go to the Celestial Temple by himself. Nelu led the way, not very fast, and also passed by a certain Namek tribe, allowing everyone to see the living conditions of the Namek people. Unpretentious. Looking at the hardworking Namekians and their lifestyle, Bulma and Son Gohan's understanding of the Namekians was based on these 4 words. By meeting these Namekians, everyone except Lin Chuan knew that not everyone on the Namekians was like Piccolo, Al, or Naru, with strong strength. Soon, under the guidance of Nelu, the group came to the place where the great elder of the Namek people lived. Seeing the visitor, the 2 Namekians guarding the great elder here were surprised one after another. After a while of questioning and communication, I finally understood what was going on and then stepped back. It's not that they don't want to continue communicating, but that the great elder can't wait. Seeing the great elder's posture and appearance, even Lin Chuan, who had been mentally prepared, was startled. Of course, what shocked Lin Chuan the most was the great elder's strength, which had a combat power of hundreds of thousands of points. This is a great elder who is almost dead. It is hard to imagine how powerful he was when he was young. He was surprised, let alone Son Gohan, Chi-Chi and Bulma. Chi-Chi and Bulma were frightened and hid behind Lin Chuan and Sun Wuhan. It seems that they are afraid of what this huge old guy will do to them. Piccolo, on the other hand, only had a flash of surprise and remained calm. He could clearly feel that the great elder was different from the Namekians outside. That feeling of being connected in life, it's like, he comes from him. Elder, he murmured softly. The words came to his lips, but he didn't know how to express them. Child who lives outside, it's great to be able to see you. Can you get closer and let me take a closer look at you? Although the elder covered his voice and forced himself to take a breath, he could still it sounded like he was a little weak. After hearing this, Piccolo hesitated for a moment and stepped in front of the great elder. The other party slowly raised his huge right hand and gently landed on his head. For Piccolo, this kind of action that was considered blasphemous to his dignity should have made him furious. But strangely, not only did he not feel angry at all, nor did he show any resistance. The great elder's touch was like a father caring for him. The unprecedented feeling made Piccolo break his state of mind, and his strength also improved accordingly. Once you are powerful enough to reach a certain level, sometimes just a sudden realization can increase your strength. Others couldn't see it, but Lin Chuan could. Of course, the great elder should also feel it. I see, because I separated myself, I am missing that part. The strange power spread from the great elder's hands to Piccolo's body, and he also revealed Piccolo's situation. Piccolo could feel that the great elder had invisibly read his memories that were not private. After a moment of silence, the great elder smiled kindly again. You have perfectly inherited everything from Kadaz, and your appearance is almost exactly the same as your father's when he was young. It's a pity that if you hadn't been separated into 2 different individuals, maybe you would be 1,000 times more powerful than you are now. As the great elder's words came out, everyone was startled when they heard the words. Especially Son Gohan, Bulma and Chi-Chi. The complete Piccolo is 1,000 times more powerful than he is now. What is the concept? Chapter 71. Even so, I don't bother to get that kind of additional power. If you want me to be reunited with that old guy from God, with all due respect, Great Elder, it's impossible in this lifetime. Piccolo was determined. How could he know that he would assimilate with the gods and become one again due to the crisis of artificial humans? The Great Elder saw the memory and seemed to see the future. This is one of his special abilities. No one can completely guarantee that things in the future will not happen. My child, I will not interfere with you or force you. So you can rest assured. As a Great Elder, I fought side by side with your father. Without him, I wouldn't be where I am now. I owe Kadaz a lot. As a child living in a foreign land, I have not found you for so many years. It was my fault. Now that I am about to die, I can only give you a small gift to make up for my debt to you. I hope that with my help, you will not only become stronger, but also be able to protect your tribe and this hometown in the future. As he spoke, the Great Elder's hand began to exert force slightly. He took this opportunity to activate his ability without hesitation. While Piccolo was still hesitant to understand, a mysterious power enveloped Piccolo's body. The mysterious power that could not be described in words ran through his whole body, and Piccolo was dumbfounded. His body is being opened up and his soul is being sublimated. My power is actually this. The body and soul undergo transformation in all aspects. Piccolo's combat power has grown explosively. Wow! Single quote. The snow-white aura lingered around Piccolo uncontrollably, creating a strong pressure. Seeing this situation, Lin Chuan intentionally or unintentionally protected Bulma behind him and deployed his aura barrier. Seeing this, Sun Wuhan gathered his aura and stood in front of his mother. Potential development has reached this point. Piccolo's potential is no worse than that of a Saiyaman. Yes, after all, in the future, he also mastered the power of the Dragon God, and further transformed into Orange Piccolo, a true Super Namekian. Lin Chuan, who made an evaluation in his mind and knew what was going on, expected Piccolo to reach a higher limit. Although, no matter how strong this power is, it cannot be compared to him now. But the current strength that Piccolo can achieve is higher, which in disguise shows that the potential of the Great Elder can be developed to a higher limit. Uncle Piccolo. Sun Wuhan was surprised by Piccolo's aura and couldn't help shouting. Bulma and Chi-Chi didn't know why, and remained frightened from beginning to end. The development time took more than a minute. Finally, the Great Elder withdrew his hand, and Piccolo stopped from the sudden increase in strength and quickly came to his senses. This is the only thing I can do. Although part of your body is missing, your potential is still so great that I can't even imagine it. I can't develop your full potential. I hope you won't be disappointed. Following the Great Elder's kind words, Piccolo would not be satisfied. At this moment, the respect for the Great Elder in his heart was even stronger. You must know that his strength at this time is at least several times that of before. Only Lin Chuan could see that his combat power reached 225,000 points. It's 5 times the previous value. You know I have an evil side, so why do you want to develop my potential and make me stronger? Are you really not afraid that I will turn back into the big devil after I get the power? Piccolo pretended to be a devil, said proudly. He did this on purpose. What would he like to hear from the Great Elder? From the previous memory reading, the Great Elder discovered his identity. In this case, there is no need to hide one's ambitions. You can't. Maybe your predecessor could, but you definitely won't do it now. The Great Elder's words, Yun Danfengqing, pierced Piccolo's heart and completely changed Piccolo. HMPH. Don't want me to say thank you. Also, don't die. I don't want to see you, the Great Elder, die for me when I first come to my hometown. Piccolo was in a very deep mood. It was complicated. After he said these words, he turned and walked out of the room. It's not that he doesn't want to stay long, but staying here makes it difficult for him to breathe. He tried his best to maintain his inner self and did not want outsiders to notice the changes. After all, how could he not realize that he is no longer the same person as before? Especially in the past month or so, plus this space voyage. Ahem. This child still needs an opportunity to completely change himself. Okay, now it's time to thank you, the people on Earth, and the Saiyans. The elder coughed a few times to divert his attention. Finally, he looked at Lin Chuan and Sun Wuhan. Bulma and Chi-Chi were ignored by him. Because it doesn't have much strength. Of course, he still thanked me with a kind smile. After several exchanges, Bulma and Chi-Chi were no longer afraid. Because the Great Elder is a good person, not as intimidating as he appears on the surface. Without the communication barrier, Lin Chuan also stated his purpose. Great Elder, I don't like beating around the bush. Since you had a premonition of our arrival early on, you should be able to roughly guess the purpose of my coming to planet Namek. The next second, Lin Chuan stopped and got to the point. First, I hope you can help me develop my potential, just like you just developed Piccolo's potential. Of course, I also hope you can develop this child's potential. Second, I want to borrow a Dragon Ball from your clan. Although the Earth also has Dragon Balls, its ability is limited and I cannot fulfill my wish. After the words fell, Lin Chuan looked at the Great Elder and nodded slightly. After digesting Lin Chuan's words, the Great Elder spoke slowly. I can tell that your strength has reached an unfathomable level. You are so powerful, do you still want to become stronger? Although I can develop my potential, in my current state, and looking at your current strength, I may only have a minimal effect on you. The elder said, paused, and looked at Sun Wuhan aside. Based on this child's foundation, if he has enough potential, he can be like Piccolo's child. However, it is not necessarily possible to develop it. After finishing speaking, the Great Elder looked at Lin Chuan again. I've probably guessed what you said. You just need to develop your potential. No matter what the result is, I won't blame you. Lin Chuan said. The Great Elder nodded, and then said, there is no problem in developing the potential. In any case, you can be regarded as the benefactors of our clan. After all, you have sent Kadaza's children back. It's just that regarding the Dragon Balls, I'm sorry that I can't promise you directly. Everything is mutual. If you gain something, you will lose something. The realization of a wish requires the consumption of a very large amount of willpower, and once the wish power is consumed to realize the wish, the Dragon Ball will generate an extremely large amount of negative energy. If we fail to control it, unimaginable disasters will occur. The reason why our Namek clan suffered a disaster many years ago has nothing to do with the Dragon Balls. The Great Elder said, then pretended to pause. After hearing these words, Lin Chuan roughly understood what the Great Elder meant. Although I was shocked by the GT plot setting that negative energy will be born after making a wish with the Dragon Balls, the excessive use of the Dragon Balls will cause unimaginable disasters, which is indeed described in detail in the Majin Buu chapter and even the Super Era. Just because of this, you don't want to let him use it. Lin Chuan was thoughtful and understood the Great Elder's meaning. The preface and the following words seemed to warn him of the consequences of using the Dragon Balls, but at the same time they were telling him that using the Dragon Balls would require paying a corresponding price. Lin Chuan smiled indifferently, and regardless of the presence of others present, he said, if you have any conditions, just put them forward. You should also know that I am determined to fulfill my wish during this trip. There was a hint of strength in his words. Of course, Lin Chuan would not do it forcefully. After all, making a wish requires the help of the Namekian language. With Lin Chuan's words, the Great Elder would no longer be secretive. In fact, he and Lin Chuan already understood each other. He was also testing Lin Chuan to see if this Saiyan was different from the one in his dream. After all, the Dragon Ball cannot be used casually by outsiders. If it is given to someone with an impure mind, it will definitely bring unimaginable disaster. And this is why making a wish must be in Namekian language. The last barrier set up by the Great Elder is to prevent this kind of thing from happening. At least under his rule, no children will betray the clan, let alone actively cooperate with others to make wishes. Therefore, even if the Dragon Ball is taken away by outsiders, it will not cause harm to the world. I hope you can understand that as the Great Elder of Namek, I must consider the future of my hometown and my ethnic group. The Dragon Balls are not meant to be used casually, but today I am going to use them to make a deal with you. It's a pity that the child is not complete. Otherwise, maybe his strength will be enough to rival the enemies that will come in the future. After listening to these words, you will be confused, but to be honest, I have a premonition that Namek will usher in a huge disaster in the near future. My children and I may all be buried in this disaster. In the midst of disaster. The Dragon Ball can be lent to you, but I hope that when the time comes, you can help my people and protect my planet through this crisis. As the Great Elder's words came out, Lin Chuan was startled. At this time, it was completely concluded that the Great Elder could indeed foresee the future. As a time traveler, how could he not know the development of the plot, and how could he not hear what he was saying? However, even if he knew that the disaster would happen in the future, he could not tell it. After all, how could he know what would happen in the future? Yes, if the Namekians encounter a disaster in the future, I will help. But I cannot completely guarantee that I will do what you said. I can only do my best. Lin Chuan agreed to the Great Elder's request. Hearing this, the smile on the Great Elder's face became even brighter. Your words are enough. Now that our deal is complete, I can help you develop your potential first. Lin Chuan nodded and walked to the Great Elder without hesitation. The Great Elder raised his giant hand again and landed on Lin Chuan's forehead. Seal your own mental power and use all your strength to sense the Great Elder's intentions. After all, this old guy can read memories. Lin Chuan couldn't let him see his memory, so he cautiously let himself go and seal the memory with his own spiritual power. Others would not know about Lin Chuan's caution, but the Great Elder knew it very well. He had really planned to look at some of Lin Chuan's memory fragments, but as soon as his mental power entered, it was all gone. It was the gap in strength that made him unable to read the other person's memory when others refused. And the reason why he could see Piccolo's memories was entirely because Piccolo didn't resist. Forget it, since I have chosen to believe, then I will completely believe in you. After letting go of the obsessions in his heart, the Great Elder's mind became much clearer. Wow! Single quote. As the ability to develop potential was activated, snow-white aura emerged around Lin Chuan's body. Although it was not as shocking as Piccolo's, Lin Chuan could feel that he had indeed experienced a sublimation. Unlike Piccolo, Lin Chuan's strength and the fact that he has been practicing in the gravity training room have already reached a certain level of control over his power. The external system is enhancing its own combat power every moment, which allows Lin Chuan's body to instinctively adapt to the increasing strength. Therefore, even if his own strength increases, it will not make him uncontrollable. You can feel that the power in your body is constantly being stimulated. Time passes by minute by minute. 2 minutes later, the Great Elder retracted his arm and took a breath. It was particularly difficult for him to display his abilities and develop Lin Chuan's potential. Ahem, I can only help you develop so far. I hope you won't be too disappointed. With your potential, it's hard to imagine how powerful you will be in the future. After completing the release of his potential, the Great Elder's words told Lin Chuan that even if he didn't have a system, he still had unlimited possibilities. It's enough. Although my strength has not improved much, it has brought me to a new level. Lin Chuan thanked him. The next second, open the system panel. Host, Lin Chuan. Age, 25. Height, 185 cm. Weight, 85 kg. Combat Power Index, 8,000,005 points. The current level of the system, Level 1. Automatically hanging up. Combat Power plus 1 second. The combat power he possessed since the day he left the Earth, coupled with the 6 days of space travel, and the improvement obtained by Lin Chuan's own practice. Before developing his potential, Lin Chuan's combat power had already exceeded 7 million points. Now the development of this potential has directly replenished hundreds of thousands of points, bringing his combat power value to 8 million points. 7 million combat power and 8 million combat power. The gap is indeed not too big, so Lin Chuan doesn't feel very excited. All in all, we are getting closer to the tens of millions level. In the next period of time, the most important thing for him to practice is to study the transformation of Super Saiyan. It is conceivable that if he becomes a Super Saiyan at this time, the 50 times increase in the first level and first form alone can bring the combat power to 400 million. 400 million combat power. This is a step that Lin Chuan must take. Otherwise, even after a year, his combat power will still not easily exceed 100 million. Okay, next is this child. The Great Elder said directly without pausing. Although he was already a little tired, he had to finish it at once. This is also the final consumption, and he will sleep for a few days to recover the lost mental energy. Go, Gohan. Lin Chuan saw the change in the Great Elder and knew that this kind of thing could not be delayed, so he urged. Yes, Uncle Lin Chuan. Sun Wufan stepped forward obediently. He is kind-hearted and honest. Although he was a little afraid at first because of the elder's size and appearance, his prejudice soon disappeared as the elder became friendly and approachable. Thank you, Great Elder Grandpa. Sun Wuhan thanked him politely after having close contact with the Great Elder. This also made the smile on the Great Elder's face become gentler. You're welcome. I see infinite possibilities in you. My child, your future achievements will be limitless. The Great Elder said as he used his potential development ability again. The situation happened again when Bak developed its potential. And because of his obvious lack of control, Sun Wuhan's increased strength created even greater momentum. Until the end of development, Sun Wuhan couldn't believe that his power could be so great. It's amazing, it's amazing. Is this still me? Sun Wuhan's childish voice was full of excitement. For children, the feelings brought about by the improvement of strength are directly displayed through their small mouths and expressions. Others can only judge how strong Sun Wuhan is by his energy. Lin Chuan could see the exact value. This guy's combat power index reached 188,000 points. It is slightly inferior to Piccolo, but this power has surpassed the strength of his father when he arrived on Namek in the original work. However, his potential was not as good as Piccolo's after being developed, which surprised Lin Chuan. I thought that this kid could surpass Piccolo in one breath. Perhaps it was because he was so young that his body strength could only bear so much. Great Elder, are you okay? Because the development turmoil this time was too big, Nelu outside the house couldn't help but rushed in and shouted with concern. Seeing that the Great Elder's breath was so weak, he hurriedly stepped forward to check the situation. It wasn't until he was sure that there was nothing strange about the Great Elder, but that he had just consumed a lot of energy, that he felt relieved. I have nothing to do, Nelu. You just happened to come in, so please work hard and summon the elders of each department and ask them to bring the dragon beads over and make a wish for this alien friend. The Great Elder maintained his calm, said. He was very tired, but he still had to say some things and give instructions on some things. Use Dragon Balls for them. Nelu couldn't believe it. At this moment, I suddenly realized why this group of Earthlings came to planet Namek. Besides for Dragon Ball, why else? Seeing Nelu's worries, the Great Elder nodded and continued. Don't worry, the Dragon Balls can be used by them. They will always be our Namekian friends in the future. Although friendship is on the surface, that's what it means, but in reality it means forcibly binding each other together. Lin Chuan was not stupid. He looked at the Great Elder and gave his promise. Don't worry, Great Elder. Although everyone gets what they need, since I promised, I will definitely do it. Protect you Namekians. A clan. The words fell. Lin Chuan took Sun Wufan, Bulma, and Chi-Chi out of the Great Elder's residence. He didn't stay in the house and say anything to the Elder because it was not necessary. And the Great Elder must have something to say to Nelu alone. After waiting for a long time, Lin Chuan and others waited until Nelu came out. This guy's face was full of confusion, but he was helpless. As the #1 warrior of the Namekians, even though he is now completely outclassed by Piccolo, he is still arrogant. I will contact all the major ethnic groups to bring the Dragon Ball. Although I don't know what you rely on to make the Great Elder trust you, but if you do any bad things to Namek, even if you die, I will drag you with me. Lu's words were full of hostility. Lin Chuan knew that he couldn't ease up with him easily, so he simply didn't say anything. Anyway, as long as the wish he wants to make comes true, then everything about coming to planet Namek will be considered completed. 2 hours passed. After 6 tribal elders arrived one after another, 6 Dragon Balls were brought here, and then Nelu took out the last Dragon Ball from the elder's house. The 7 huge dragon beads glowed with bursts of golden light, extremely bright. For the Namekians, this was a scene they had not seen for many years. Because gathering the Dragon Balls to summon the divine dragon Palunga requires the approval of the Great Elder. There is basically no need, and they will never summon Palunga to make a wish. This time, what they didn't expect was that the Great Elder actually gave the Dragon Ball to the alien to make a wish. These Namek Dragon Balls are really big. They are much bigger than the Dragon Balls on Earth. Bulma, as someone who has studied Dragon Balls carefully, kept looking at these huge Dragon Balls with shock in her eyes. Such a huge Dragon Ball, who knows what the dragon summoned looks like? The Dragon Balls have been gathered. Please stay away, I'm going to summon Palunga. Nelu motioned for everyone to keep a distance. Upon hearing this, everyone took a step back. As Naru spoke the summoning spell in Namekian, the 7 Dragon Balls reacted. The orange stars inside the 7 Dragon Balls began to shine, and in an instant, the entire sky of planet Namek was dyed black by a mysterious force. As golden light exploded from the center of the 7 Dragon Balls and shot straight into the sky, the darkness was lit up. At the center of this golden light, a ferocious and burly body appeared. The divine dragon Balunga that covers the sky and the sun. Come on stage. Is this the dragon of Namek? Bulma exclaimed in disbelief when she saw this. She had imagined many possibilities, but she had never thought that the dragon on planet Namek would actually look like this. This is not a divine dragon, even if you say it is a monster crawling out of the abyss, some people will believe it. The image is the same as the appearance of the Namekian, giving people an intuitive feeling of a demon king. So big. Sun Wukong opened his mouth wide, unable to conceal the shock in his heart. He had never seen a divine dragon on Earth. The first time he saw a divine dragon that could grant wishes was from Namek, and he was extremely curious. Beside him, Chi-Chi was quite frightened and nestled against her son. Where's Piccolo? At this time, he was looking thoughtfully at the dragon on his home planet. In his concept, this is the genuine Shenlong. Of course, he would not know that even the divine dragon of planet Namek was not the real source. Those who have collected all 7 Dragon Balls, tell them your wishes. No matter what they are, this dragon can help you realize 3 of them. As Balunga spoke in normal language, several people except Lin Chuan were once again surprised. The wish went from 1 to 3. This is too outrageous. It's incredible to have a wish come true. There were constant lamentations, mostly from Bulma complaining that the dragon on Earth was really not up to par. Compared with the dragon here, it is simply not worthy of carrying shoes. Piccolo echoed, but also expressed his own opinions, and by the way, he disparaged Piccolo, the god of the earth. As for their verbal praise, Palunga was very impressed, and he puffed up his burly chest for a while. Okay, Palunga has been summoned. Now you can tell your wish. Palunga can fulfill a total of 3 wishes, but the wish must be made in the language of our Namekians before it can be realized. Quote. Naru understood the meaning of Bulma and Piccolo's verbal exchange. But even if he cared, he didn't delve into it. Wishes must be made in Namekian language. If Lin Chuan's wish is unrealistic and threatens their clan, then according to the instructions given to him by the Great Elder, he can only realize Lin Chuan's wish in disguise, or simply express it this wish cannot be made. After listening to Nelu's words, at this time, Lin Chuan was actually looking at the divine dragon that was much larger than the Earth's divine dragon. Looking at Balunga, who exuded boundless dragon power above his head, Lin Chuan said without hesitation, "My first wish, please let the dragon grant me the ability to teleport to and from any planet at will." After saying these words, Lin Chuan glanced at Nelu again. After hearing this, Nelu analyzed the wish and found that there was no threat. He raised his head and translated Lin Chuan's words into Namekian to make a wish to Palunga. "I'm sorry, I'm afraid I can't help you realize your wish." Palunga didn't remain silent for long, and answered after thinking for a few seconds. Lin Chuan couldn't accept this answer. Why? Lin Chuan frowned and asked. "You know, it's just teleportation. Is it that difficult?" The Earth Dragon cannot achieve this, but Lin Chuan can understand. But Palunga's answer directly affected his mentality. You know, in the original work, Boringa's power can involve the entire universe, and even the realm of Kaioshin can have a hand. As someone who had made a wish with Lin Chuan, Bulma knew how Lin Chuan was feeling now. She was also surprised, but she didn't speak. With the bridge of communication, Palunga did not hesitate to ask Lin Chuan and answered directly. The teleportation you mentioned, which can travel to and from any planet without any medium, can only be mastered by the kings and gods of the past generations who have managed the universe. Ability, that is to say, only Kaioshin can learn and use it. Although this dragon can indeed involve the realm of gods, it still cannot let you, a mortal, learn the divine control skills. Moreover, it requires divine power to activate the divine control skills. Even if it is given to you, you will not be able to use it. Quote. When he said this, Lin Chuan looked stunned. This was something he hadn't thought about. The dragon of the earth only said that the realm of gods cannot be touched. This time I know it completely. The instant movement of the king of emotions is actually a divine control technique. To perform that teleportation requires the power of God. There was so much information that Lin Chuan was slowly absorbing it, let alone others. Before Lin Chuan could say anything, Palunga changed the topic and said, however, this dragon knows that there is a teleportation skill similar to this god's control skill in the universe. On a planet called Adtra, there is a group of special Adelates. Although the teleportation they master is extremely limited, and they need to lock the target first before they can teleport, it can still be regarded as teleportation, kind of. If you need this kind of teleportation, this dragon can realize it for you, and can give you a small upgrade as compensation for not being able to fully realize your wish. After Divine Dragon Balunga finished speaking, Lin Chuan raised his eyebrows. How to improve an upgrade? Although it cannot be upgraded, you must lock the target to teleport, but you can add a specific ability. As long as you leave a spatial mark on the place you have been to, you can use teleportation to travel. What do you think? Palunga asked. Hearing this, Lin Chuan's brain was spinning rapidly, and Bolunga's words kept repeating in his mind. Although this is indeed not as good as Kaioshin's teleportation, it seems to be good. Okay. Lin Chuan nodded. Palunga made an okay gesture with his hand. The next second, he did not wait for Nelu to make a wish again, but directly carried out the wish fulfillment. This is the humane Palunga. Compared to this, the Earth Divine Dragon is nothing short of scum. Wang. Single quote. Palunga's eyes glowed red, and the surging willpower was released. Lin Chuan felt that there was a lot more information flowing in his mind, and his body naturally absorbed it. That's about learning how to use teleportation and how to mark space imprints. Your first wish has been fulfilled. Now please tell me your second wish. After realizing the first wish, Palunga continued to ask Lin Chuan. My second wish should be simpler than the first. Please give me the ability to recover from my own injuries when I am near death or seriously injured. Although I did not decide to make this wish at the beginning, in order to be able to establish the foundation, Lin Chuan decided to advance this wish to the first batch of wishes that must be realized. Self-healing ability, or healing ability. After hearing this, Nelu didn't feel that there was any harm in the wish, let alone the aspect of immortality. He simply translated Lin Chuan's words into Namekian and told Palunga. After receiving the wish-making instruction for the second wish, Palunga was silent for a moment. I don't know how big the recovery scope you are referring to is, but this dragon can give you a special self-healing ability. As long as there is still energy in your body, you can use it no matter how serious the injury is. The energy can be transformed into healing power to heal one's own injuries. In this case, can you accept it? Palunga said. Lin Chuan was not in a hurry when his wish was changed again. After thinking about it carefully, he felt that it was pretty much the same and nodded to Palunga. Okay, then the second wish will be fulfilled for you now. With Lin Chuan's consent, Palunga immediately began to fulfill the second wish. With the flash of red light in Palunga's eyes, Lin Chuan could clearly feel that some subtle changes had taken place in his body. It seemed as if something had been changed in his body, but it was not serious. And the ability to heal himself appeared in his mind. As long as you have enough energy, you can heal all injuries on your own. Even if a broken arm is reborn or the internal organs are crushed, it can be restored with the help of enough healing energy converted from energy. It's simply outrageous. This divine dragon Balunga is really the best good guy in the original novel. Not only will we help you realize your wishes, but we will also take the initiative to help you optimize your wishes every time. It's called a gift of wishing benefits, but in fact this is his humanity. He is not a rigid dragon. Okay, your second wish has been fulfilled, now please tell me your third wish. Palunga continued. After realizing the first two wishes, Lin Chuan came back to his senses and fell into deep thought. After two experiences, he was also thinking about something crucial. Perhaps, this wish can be realized in advance. I just don't know if Palunga can help him realize it. If not, what good suggestions or methods does he have? Before I realize my third wish, I want to ask you a few questions. Is that okay? Lin Chuan made some kind of decision in his heart and raised his head to look at Palunga. Upon hearing the inquiry, Palunga hesitated for a moment, but did not refuse and nodded. Seeing this, Lin Chuan no longer hesitated. Even though there were many Namekians nearby, even Piccolo, Gohan, Bulma, Chi-Chi, and the others were there, the questions he wanted to ask could still be heard by them. You should know that there are two legends in our Saiyan family, one is the legendary Super Saiyan, and the other is the legendary Super Saiyan God. I discovered the differences between them through research, and learned a lot about them. So, I want to know if I can become the legendary Super Saiyan, or Super Saiyan God, through my own training. Lin Chuan's questions were carefully organized, causing Shenlong Palunga to quickly fall into silence. He is omniscient and omnipotent. After Lin Chuan inquired, he directly connected to the database that belongs to their Shenlong. The legendary Super Saiyan is a super warrior who is born every 1,000 years of reincarnation in your Saiyan clan. This is something you are born with. It is an innate advantage that cannot be acquired. However, through hard work and practice, you can still become an ordinary Super Saiyan. With your current strength, you already have enough strength foundation, so you can achieve it in the near future. As for the Super Saiyan God, since you already understand the legend, you should also know the method of transformation. It's just that this requirement is extremely demanding, and the Saiyans surviving in this era cannot meet this condition. Finally, what you said about becoming a Super Saiyan God with the help of training is indeed feasible. God can be born or acquired. As for more information, it touches too many secrets of the realm of God. It's not a wish, so please forgive me for not being able to answer it for you any longer. Palunga's explanation can be regarded as an accurate answer. Although he was a little disappointed, it was also within Lin Chuan's expectations. It is indeed almost impossible to become the legendary Super Saiyan, and there is already a legendary Super Saiyan in the world today. It's something you're born with, and excellence cannot be achieved through nurture. The Super Saiyan God, as the dragon Boringa said, he knows the method of transformation, but it is impossible to succeed in the current situation. Even if Son Goku and Son Gohan meet the conditions, it would take 5 Saiyans. Of course, this is not the best way to become a god. In the Super Era stage of the original work, Vegeta relied on his own power and the guidance of the angel Whis to become a god. This is the true path. So, there is a way, but do I need to make a wish? Lin Chuan asked in a different way. Palunga had a sad look on his face. He didn't expect that he had not come out for many years and finally came out to take a breath of fresh air. The wish maker he faced would be so difficult to deal with. The areas he had to cover were all on the edge of the limit of his abilities. Do you really want to know? This dragon does know a cultivation method that does not touch the realm of gods. Perhaps with your talent, you may be able to rely on yourself to cultivate the power of trance one day in the future. When the time comes, with divine power, you may also transform into a Super Saiyan God. Palunga's words were like opening up a new world. An alternative way to become a god. If so, then my third wish is this. Lin Chuan's eyes lit up and he said, "It's better than nothing, so I might as well give this practice a try. If you can succeed, it will be great. If you can't, it will also be a failure experience. In summary, you can become more perfect and avoid detours in the future." Turning to look at Nilu, Lin Chuan didn't need to say anything at this time, because Lin Chuan and Palunga's exchange had already confirmed their wishes. Nilu translated Lin Chuan's words into Namekian and made a third wish to Palunga. After receiving the wish-making instruction, Palunga's eyes flashed red. In an instant, Lin Chuan felt a huge flow of information pouring into his mind. That was the alternative divine power cultivation method given to him by Palunga. Of course, you have to practice it before you know whether it is feasible or not. All your wishes have been fulfilled. I bid farewell to this dragon. Goodbye. With all the wishes fulfilled, Palungama turned into golden light and shot straight up to the sky, bringing with it naturally 7 dragon beads. When the golden light completely converged back into the dragon beads, the 7 dragon beads turned into boulders due to exhaustion of their willpower, and flew to 7 different locations on Namek at a speed exceeding the limit. After the wish was made, the darkness that originally blocked the sky returned to a bright and clear sky. Why did I hear your last wish so vaguely? One moment it was about the legendary Super Saiyan, the next moment it was about the Super Saiyan God. You asked for a training method to become a god, just to become that legendary god. If you want to become a god, wouldn't it be enough to go back to Earth and ask the god? He is a god, so he should be similar, right? Bulma came to Lin Chuan's side and asked. While others were still in shock of making a wish, she had come back to her senses. What you said makes sense, but there is still a big difference between the two gods. You will know this later. Lin Chuan played it safe and did not tell Bulma the details. If you don't tell me, don't tell me. Why bother? You tried so hard, but you didn't even think about giving me a wish in the end. Bulma did not get too entangled, but instead changed the subject and complained. Lin Chuan was a little bit dumbfounded when he waited until the wish was over before saying this. Over the past few days, he and Bulma were getting along more and more harmoniously, and they were used to facing each other like this. To be honest, Bulma should have just said it, otherwise she would have directly intervened by making a wish before. Of course she said that, but Lin Chuan didn't mind and said. Next time, the Dragon Balls on planet Namek should be restored in 130 days. I still need to make another wish. Then one of the wishes will be yours, how about it? It didn't matter to him to give Bulma a wish. Even if it was a bit wasteful for her to make a wish with the Dragon of Namek, Lin Chuan was not the kind of stingy person, not to mention that he had already regarded her as one of his own, so what was a mere wish? Because of Lin Chuan's guarantee, Bulma said, that's pretty much it, before she revealed the matter. Of course, it also aroused Bulma's disbelief. She didn't expect that the Dragon Balls on planet Namek could be restored in 130 days. She will know this in the coming days, because there are 130 days in a year on planet Namek, and the law of Dragon Ball recovery is based on a yearly cycle. On the other hand, because they heard that Lin Chuan wanted to make a wish, the Namek elders were a little uneasy. It's not enough to make 3 wishes at once, but you have to make another wish after 130 days. The elders were angry with Lin Chuan but did not dare to speak out, and Nelu could only watch with cold eyes. The Great Elder ordered that these people would only be friends of the Namekians. And the Dragon Balls were also allowed for their use. They can't stop it, unless you make a wish that harms your tribe and the world. In a blink, time flies. 5 days have passed since Lin Chuan and his party arrived at planet Namek to develop its potential and make their wishes. During these 5 days, the group also experienced all the customs of Namek under the care of the Namekians. After many days of getting along, the Namekians no longer regarded Lin Chuan and his group from Earth as they did at the beginning. They only regarded them as friends under the orders of the Great Elder. It can be said that the best ones are Piccolo and Bulma. Piccolo is because he is a Namekian, so the Namekians on this planet are very caring for him, a member of his tribe who has been exiled and has only returned today. As for Bulma, that's outrageous. Planet Namek is too barren. Although its vitality is constantly recovering, it is still too desolate. Because Bulma learned about the situation of this planet from Lin Chuan, she specially brought a lot of fine crops from the Earth to enrich the Namek planet. It seems like it's like an alien invasion. But there are very few animals and plants on planet Namek. Now the arrival of new blood brings new hope. Plus Bulma's various technological devices, plus her mind. Her existence, in just a few days, constantly solved problems for the Namekians, solved various troubles and reversed the ecological crisis, and also promoted the development of the Namekians. There is no doubt that she became the savior. To put it in the simplest terms, if Bulma had originally said that she wanted to use the Dragon Balls to make a wish, no one would be willing to do it, and people would even think that she was wishful thinking. But now, if she says she wants to make a wish, the Namekians are definitely willing to take the initiative to give her the Dragon Ball. Lin Chuan had truly witnessed with his own eyes how awesome Bulma was at socializing. Besides, Sun Wukong and Chi-Chi also enjoy eating very well. In addition to practicing with Lin Chuan and Piccolo at certain times every day, Sun Wukong also mingled with the Namek children. His cute and innocent character quickly gained the favor of the Namekians. Chi-Chi also took care of the Namekian children together, so he gained a lot of family and friend points. It is worth mentioning that among these children, there is one person who even Lin Chuan did not expect, that is Dandy, the god of the future Earth. Invisibly, even though the plot is different from the original work, he and Sun Wuhan have still become friends since childhood. Lin Chuan was even thinking about whether to take advantage of this opportunity to take Dandy with him when he left and let him go to Earth in advance. Of course, this can be discussed later. Located on an island on Namek. At this moment, Lin Chuan was standing here motionless. He is cultivating his spiritual power here and also exercising his ability to sense qi. Sweat was dripping down his face. That ugly expression showed that he was not in a good mood. It's still far from enough. My strength is too weak. Lin Chuan sighed. He is actually sensing the breath of the earth to hone his mastery and use of the breath. It's a pity that his qi can't even break through the entire Vega galaxy, let alone reach the solar system at the far end. Originally, I thought that since I had learned teleportation, if I could sense the Earth's energy, I could return directly to the Earth. Now it seems that it is impossible to do it. With his combat power of nearly 8.5 million points, his qi is far from enough to spread beyond the scope of a large galaxy group. Of course, if you only wander around the living planets in the Vega galaxy group, it won't be a big problem. According to this limit, simply sensing the Earth's energy from planet Namek would require at least a combat power of over 100 million, maybe even billions. Moreover, there must be people there who are powerful enough. The breath locks my target, he muttered in his mouth. Recall the original Sun Wukong. He only used teleportation to travel to the new Namek planet during the artificial human chapter, thus traveling across the stars. In comparison, his current strength is hundreds or thousands of times worse than Sun Wukong in the cyborg chapter. He calmed down and breathed a sigh of relief. Forget it, take your time. Since you can't teleport back, just practice the Super Saiyan transformation. There is also the primary divine power cultivation method given by Shenlong. The words were murmured from his mouth, and Lin Chuan also shifted his attention. I won't give up or be discouraged, but if I am lacking in this aspect, I will seek greater breakthroughs in other aspects. This aura. Suddenly, a very evil aura appeared in Lin Chuan's aura. And this energy is not on the Namek planet. Suddenly he raised his head and looked up at the sky. It is certain that this energy is constantly approaching Namek. Who has such an evil aura? Found Namek during this period again. This aura is not very strong, but it is at least as strong as hundreds of thousands of points of combat power. In the current era, the intensity of this breath is consistent, and the breath is full of the smell of evil and killing. A figure appeared in Lin Chuan's mind, making him feel numb and confused. Not scared, but incredible. Is this breath really Frieza? No, it's impossible. But if it's not Frieza, who could it be? Frowning, Lin Chuan became more vigilant and kept digging in his mind. Relevant plot memories. Logically speaking, it is impossible for outsiders to come to planet Namek at this stage. Now that there is such a big accident, the only explanation is because of his relationship with the butterfly. In terms of strength, the combat power of Frieza's first form without transformation is indeed 530,000 points. Apart from Frieza, Lin Chuan really couldn't imagine anyone else. Just when Lin Chuan continued to be suspicious, Nilu's aura entered the range of perception, found him at extremely fast speed, and came to his side. These days, although Lin Chuan didn't do anything, he didn't deliberately try to build a good relationship with anyone. But more or less, it can be regarded as changing the Namek people's first sense of him. Nilu, in particular, was extremely hostile to Lin Chuan at first. Later, after the battle, he gradually became convinced of Lin Chuan, and also learned what kind of person Lin Chuan was from the battle and life. At least, he's not a bad person, and he won't harm their Namek family. Nilu, what's the matter with you coming to see me? Looking at Nilu who suddenly arrived, Lin Chuan did not explain the aura he sensed for the time being, but instead asked him the reason for his visit. Although he guessed that his arrival might be related to the evil aura he sensed, he still had to listen to his purpose first. After all, it happened suddenly and it was too coincidental. Lin Chuan, the great elder asked me to invite you to go. Nilu stated his intention. He didn't say what was going on, but the Great Elder would not let him go for an interview for no reason. It seems that the matter is more serious than I imagined. Who is this evil aura? Lin Chuan narrowed his eyes and guessed in his heart. Since the Great Elder wants to see me, let's go. Nodding in agreement, Lin Chuan used the Wukong technique to take off. Instead of guessing here, it is better to go directly to the Great Elder to ask for the reason. Naru followed closely behind. The two of them walked in tandem, and within a short time, they arrived at the Great Elder's residence. As expected, Piccolo and Sun Wuhan were already here, seemingly waiting for a long time. Lin Chuan also met the Great Elder again. I'm here, Great Elder. If you have anything to say, just say it directly. You won't summon us for no reason. Lin Chuan went straight to the point. After hearing this, the Great Elder nodded slightly. After these days of rest, he has already recovered from his consumption. I believe you have already sensed it, right? In the universe, a powerful evil force is approaching our planet Namek. I believe it will arrive soon. The words of the Great Elder immediately attracted Nelu. Piccolo and Son Gohan were shocked. They didn't know exactly what was going on. Now that the Great Elder said this, let them concentrate directly on sensing the situation in the universe. Not long after, several people felt an extremely evil aura. Their strength is not weak, but after feeling such evil energy, their expressions changed drastically. Especially Nelu, although his combat power has improved due to the competition in the past few days, in the final analysis, he still has more than 40,000 combat power. Great Elder, is this evil aura preparing to invade our planet Namek? Nelu asked extremely cautiously. I don't know why, but this evil aura feels familiar to me. By the way, it's the aura of demons. Piccolo interjected. Because Sun Wuhan didn't know anything, he could only stand aside and listen. Since you said it yourself, let's make it clear. It seems that you are not unfamiliar with this evil aura. Lin Chuan said bluntly. At this point, the Great Elder sighed again. Alas. They all blame me. The source of that evil power was the first child I sent to an alien planet. What? Bick was shocked. This situation is exactly the same as his. However, he is not the child of the Great Elder. Yes, just like Piccolo, Kadaz sent you away as one of our Namekian heritages. And I sent away my child, Slug. As the Great Elder spoke, Lin Chuan raised his eyebrows and memories flooded his mind. Although the changes in the plot are somewhat unexpected, Lin Chuan is not unfamiliar with the name Slag. When Slug appeared in the theatrical version of the Gaiden story, it was so shocking. Lin Chuan vividly remembers that it was Slag's arrival that inspired Sun Wukong's mimic Super Saiyan. In the main plot, Sun Wukong broke through due to Krillin's death in the battle with Frieza, but in another time and space world, it was Slag who allowed Sun Wukong to break through the limit first. I didn't expect that it would be this guy. From this point of view, the real world is exactly what I guessed. Everything is possible, and many of the guys from the rumors also exist. The heart is at peace. Although he is not afraid of Frieza who has not transformed into his ultimate form, if he encounters him now, he will not be able to kill Frieza before he transforms. Now that it was confirmed that it was not Frieza but Slug, he had another feeling. The deal the Great Elder made with him a few days ago. You probably didn't expect Slager to arrive in the near future, right? Otherwise, he should have told him in advance. The Great Elder closed his eyes slightly and explained everything clearly as he continued to speak. The general meaning is that Slag came too suddenly. Although he didn't know why he came back at this time, the Great Elder hoped that Lin Chuan could help them and subdue him. No matter whether Slag is trapped in the evil way or not, no matter whether Slag has gone to extremes or not, as a father, he wants to try to guide him. After all, this is his child and he has his plans. Even if they really came to invade, even if they really wanted to take revenge, Lin Chuan couldn't refuse. What's more, the Great Elder had reached a consensus with him from the beginning to help each other without compromising interests. Regarding Slag, Lin Chuan could only say that as long as he didn't seek death, he wouldn't mind letting him live. After all, there is no hatred, and Lin Chuan has never been the kind of person who would take the initiative to cause trouble. So confident, that's natural. First, Slag is already an old man, and his strength is less than 1/10 of what he was at his peak. Second, Even if he successfully uses the Dragon Ball to make a wish to become younger, Lin Chuan is sure to suppress him. Even though in the movie version, King of North Kai spoke highly of him, compared with Frieza, he is still a bit inferior. Besides, it is impossible for a Dragon Ball to grant him a wish now. His current strength level, even if it breaks out again, is only 1,000,000 points. In the universe, a huge spaceship is sailing quickly. In this huge spaceship, Slag, who calls himself the Super Namekian, is sitting on his huge throne, overlooking his men. Angela, Dorodobo, Kisho, Jigu, Metamaki. These generals under him are all elites who have fought with him in the universe for many years. How long will it take? How long will I need to use these things? Slag roared indignantly as he reached out and grabbed a handful of life capsules that delayed aging. For him, when he first learned that these drugs could slow down aging, he was very happy and excited. But when the effect of these drugs on the body continued to weaken and no longer had the same effect as at the beginning, he became panicked, irritable, and restless. He doesn't want to die. He has not yet completed his dream of ruling the universe. As a being with immense power, he was born to be a king. After traveling the universe for so many years, he has become famous and has a foundation built over many years. However, since aging became uncontrollable, he had to withdraw his ambitions, lingering among the stars while avoiding those mortal enemies in the past. When he feels that life is the most important, everything else is no longer important. No longer like the past, he can no longer confront the major forces in the universe head-on, and he can only hide his whereabouts. Until some time ago, he received a message from a spy hidden in Frieza's legion, which activated the information in his inherited memory. It took him nearly 2 months to find the Vega Galaxy where his hometown is. He wanted to use the Dragon Ball in his inherited memory to achieve his wish. Of course, the most important thing is that the information passed down must be true, and in recent years, the Namek planet has not been destroyed, and the Namek people have not perished. Only by returning to his youth, only then, can he return to what he was like before and be able to compete with any existence. Even Frieza, who now dominates the universe, can be ignored by him. In his opinion, this kid Frieza has claimed to be the emperor of the universe for many years, relying on his father's relationship with the Kurdish king. If he is still in his prime, who is this junior? After all, he envied the Frozen Demon clan's long lifespan. Thousands of years are considered a long time for most races in the universe. But compared to the Frozen Demon clan, 1,000 years is nothing. He still remembers that when he and the Kurdish king sat face to face and had a discussion, he said calmly that he could live for tens of thousands more years, which really shocked him. Now, the Kurdish king has indeed retired for many years, but he knows that his family is still the same as before and has not changed. Angry, Slag crushed the life capsules, his eyes full of murderous intent. At this time, if anyone answers inappropriately or takes the initiative to provoke, it will inevitably lead to death. King Slag, we still have 2 hours, yes, we can reach the Namek planet in 2 hours. The leader, Dorodobo, reported in fear. 2 hours, very good. After so long, it's finally here. I hope my people are not ignorant. Slag has already prepared for the worst. He has always been direct and selfish, always thinking only about himself. If those tribesmen cooperated, the most he could do was occupy it, then become the leader, and finally take possession of the dragon beads as his own. If you don't cooperate, kill them all. Soon, 2 hours passed quietly in the blink of an eye. Slag's spaceship has broken through Namek's atmosphere and is hovering in the sky, looking for a suitable landing place. At the same time, in this area, on an extremely huge island, except for some warriors who stayed in the tribe to protect the clansmen, almost all combat-ready Namek warriors came here. They are headed by Nelu in order to protect Namek. Lin Chuan, Piccolo, and Sun Wuhan are naturally here as well. In the past 2 hours, things have been made very clear. Finally here, after waiting for so long, it's best not to be like that. Piccolo was gearing up and couldn't wait any longer. There was an eagerness to try on his face. Since his strength reached the current level, he has never really fought except for sparring and training with Rashikawa Niru and Son Gohan. As a strong man with fighting beliefs, he had long wanted to test his strength. Now there is a slug, who is from the same clan, which is great for him. Uncle Piccolo, I feel such a weird aura, it's like the devil from hell crawled out. Sensing the dark evil aura coming from the spaceship, Sun Wuhan's hair stood on end, and he couldn't even stop trembling. This kind of breath made him very uncomfortable. Even if he is not afraid, he is still young after all, and it is inevitable that his young mind will be affected. There's no need to be afraid. You're no longer what you were before. Even if that energy is very strong, we won't lose to him now. Show your courage, Gohan. Piccolo encouraged Son Gohan. After hearing this, Sun Wuhan nodded seriously and replied, "Yes, Uncle Piccolo." Seeing that the two of them looked like they were going to take action immediately, Lin Chuan narrowed his eyes slightly and said, "Don't act rashly for the time being. Let's see the other party's purpose and situation first. How things will evolve is unknown." Lin Chuan didn't plan to take the initiative, so he decided to wait first. Neilu and others on the side also settled down after hearing what Lin Chuan said. Even without the instruction of the Great Elder, just during this period of time, everyone knew that Lin Chuan was powerful enough. This is enough to convince the public. After a long time, I heard a Namekian with amazing eyesight yelling, "Look, the spaceship is moving." As soon as these words were heard, everyone focused their attention. I saw a huge mechanical device shooting out from the top of the huge spaceship. As this rocket-like product rose straight into the sky, it was suspended high in the sky of Namek. Under everyone's gaze, the thing began to rotate rapidly. Endless black mist spewed out from it, covering the sky at an extremely fast speed and dragging the world into darkness without sunlight. The black smoke carries a corrosive smell and at the same time causes the temperature to plummet. For only a short time, Namek, which was full of vitality, seemed to have returned to the era when the planet underwent major changes and climate disasters came. Others don't know, but Lin Chuan clearly understands what this thing is and what it does. If this continues, the entire planet will be transformed. If this thing is not destroyed, all animals and plants on the planet will also perish. After the environment mutated with the black clouds covering the sky, an extremely special particle seemed to be generated in the space, which could support the survival of some special beings. Immediately afterwards, the door of the spaceship was opened. For a time, countless combatants wearing armor rushed out from it. Hundreds of people formed two beautiful and neat landscapes in front of the spaceship. Then, a group of demon leaders who followed Slager to conquer the universe came out one after another. Finally, there is Slug himself, who has entered old age. Although he is old, his body is still burly and his breath is steady. There is no trace that he is an old man. Of course, this is also because no one here knows how strong Shaluj was at his strongest period. Only by comparing before and after can you know the difference. As this planet Namek, I have to say that although it is a living planet, it is very barren. And they must be your tribe, King Shaluj. They all look very similar, and they are all people with considerable strength. After Angela evaluated the Namek planet, she saw the Namek people waiting in the distance and spoke. Same as the data provided in the information, most people have thousands of combat power levels. If it is daytime, we may not be their opponents. But under the cover of the fog of the demon world, this place will be our demon the clan's home ground. Our strength will be doubled. Dorodapo said with a sinister smile. Shocked by the strength of the Namekians, but also more confident in his own strength. This kind of confidence comes from the fog of the demon world that changes the world. No, in addition to King Slag's people, there are also people from other planets. Metamaki exclaimed when he saw Lin Chuan and Sun Wuhan. After hearing what his men said, Slug came to the forefront. His eyes swept across the group of Namek descendants on the island in front of him who looked almost exactly like him when he was young, and he couldn't help but take a deep breath. This is my hometown, and my people. Humph, such a big formation came to welcome my return, which makes me a little flattered. Slag glanced at everyone, and finally followed Metamachi's words fell on Lin Chuan and Sun Wuhan. Human race. Tails. I see. If nothing else, these two, one big and one small, should be Saiyans. Slag recognized the identities of Lin Chuan and Sun Wuhan at a glance. In his memory, the Saiyans also served him, but after breaking with the Kurdish king, he went into hiding. To this day, he still remembers the monkey army that was kept captive by the Kurdish king. The so-called fighting nation. However, he remembered that after the Saiyan planet was destroyed by Frieza decades ago, there seemed to be no other Saiyans except Vegeta. Are the Saiyans from Earth coming to planet Namek in this news? Or maybe it's other Saiyans who have wandered here. After thinking about it for a while, Slag didn't take it seriously anymore. In his opinion, Saiyans are just savage monkeys. Even if they have some strength, they are not worth mentioning. His goal is the Dragon Balls and everything else doesn't matter. The atmosphere is extremely weird. It can be said that the forces of the two sides are in opposition, and no one has taken the lead to attack and cross the Thunder Pool. In the end, Nelu stood up. As the representative of the Namekians, he is also the spokesperson of the Great Elder. You must be Slug, the child who was sent away from planet Namek. Now that you have come back, you have brought so many aliens and released the fog above to change the environment of the planet. What do you want? As the question came out, Nelu's expression was not good looking. There is no doubt that he has no objection to the return of his fellow tribesmen, but what does it mean to attack the home planet directly after they return? What do I want? How dare you, a junior like me, question this king? Ask someone who is my equal to come out and speak. Slug replied angrily. If he wasn't a member of the same clan, those words just now would be enough to make him kill someone. He places his own status very high, so he doesn't pay attention to the younger generations at all. Nelu's face turned blue and purple after being openly suppressed by Slag. It is true that he is a junior, because there is an elder generation above him. Those are the direct children of the Great Elder, like Slug. Back then, the Great Elder, as the only survivor, created 108 Namekians in one go. Now, only a dozen elders remain. Let me say a few words. Piccolo saw that Nero was too angry to speak, so he walked up. In terms of seniority, he is indeed of the same generation as Slag. After all, although he is the child spit out by Piccolo, that's not all. He is just a newborn, inheriting everything from Piccolo's life. And the reason why he stood up was because he was unhappy with Slag and was relying on his old age to show off. Even the great devil Piccolo didn't even bother to do this. Are you still a kid? Is there not even an elder in the tribe? He was about to apply pressure, but found that Piccolo seemed different from Nelu and the others. There is no suspense, the strength gap is too big. HMPH, I'm not the brat you call me. Rather than talking nonsense or wasting time, I prefer to be direct. You guy, you came back to invade and plunder, right? Otherwise, how could you release such a harmful mother-in-law? The demonic mist of Star. Piccolo said directly. Hearing this, Slag glared angrily and noticed something. He finally knew that this clansman, like him, had the power of the demon clan in his body. I see, no wonder you dare to stand up. Like us, you have been baptized by the power of the demons. Okay, you are qualified to talk to me. Then I don't need to be secretive. At this point, Slag's expression suddenly became ferocious. I'm here for the Dragon Ball. If you give it to me, everything will be fine. After I realize my wish, I will leave directly. Before he finished speaking, Piccolo sneered, are you wishful thinking? Let me guess, you are not thinking about rejuvenating yourself with the help of Dragon Balls, are you? As soon as these words came out, Slag's eyes widened even more. Not only was he bluntly rejected, but his wishes were understood. Immediately, Slag's face darkened. His worst plan came true. HMPH. If that's the case, there's nothing more to say. The Dragon Ball must be mine. Slag snorted coldly and said cruelly with a threatening tone. As if they understood what he meant, the men around him immediately understood and showed cruel smiles. They are all demons, and their nature is to kill. Resist King Slug. It's a capital crime. Young men, come on. Dorodobo gave an order. The next second, hundreds of warriors in armor behind him rushed out like a swarm of bees. This move is equivalent to the war having to start. Tribesmen, defend our homeland. Resist foreign enemies. Naru gave an order, and the combat-type Namekians behind him flew out one by one without any fear. As the battle begins, on the field, only Piccolo, Nelu, Lin Chuan, and Sun Wuhan did not take action. Baiknalu did not take action, but focused his attention on Slag and those high-level demon warriors. Lin Chuan didn't take action, he was thinking about other things. As for Sun Wufan, watching the Namek warriors and the alien demon soldiers begin to fight, a strong resistance arose in my heart. Even though he was very young and had extraordinary strength and had gone through all kinds of cruel training, he had never experienced such a scene. I saw that there were casualties on both sides in the battle, especially the soldiers on Slager's side. Some of them died without their bodies intact, some had holes in their bodies, and some were even split into multiple parts. Such cruel and bloody scenes made Sun Wufan tremble with fear and horror. He is kind-hearted and has the intention of not fighting as much as possible. He also does not hope that anyone will die in this war. However, this is impossible. He is still in the process of transformation, and soon he will realize that sometimes even if he doesn't want to, others won't. He instinctively wanted to hide aside to seek shelter, but he happened to bump into Piccolo beside him. Seeing that Son Gohan was frightened out of his wits, Piccolo showed no pity and continued to maintain an indifferent attitude. He scolded, "Gohan, open your eyes and see clearly. This is the real battle, not your death. It's my death. You didn't have the chance before, but now, you have to learn from it. Otherwise, no matter how strong you are, you will only be weak in the end. The weak cannot protect the people they want to protect. The weak will only be devoured by the strong. So there is no need to be polite when facing intruders." Piccolo's harsh words reached Son Gohan's ears, causing him to tremble instinctively. He has no way to retreat. This was the advice given to him by his real father. Lin Chuan on the side heard this and had a hint of admiration for Bic. This guy really has a way. Sun Wufan was trained very successfully under his hands. Although he could have done it, it would have taken a lot of effort. I know, Uncle Piccolo." Gritting his teeth, Sun Wufan felt courage in his heart and set his sights on the battlefield again. The cruel and bloody scenes continue, with broken limbs flying, explosions, and blood filling the air. In just 2 or 3 minutes from the beginning of the war to now, a one-sided situation has formed. Slag's shrimp soldiers and crab generals alone were killed in a short period of time after facing the fierce and powerful combat-type Namek warriors. Only half of the Namek warriors were injured, and not even one died. The most serious injuries were that the arms were cut off and the body was penetrated. For the Namekians, these injuries can be recovered through cell regeneration. Seeing how few of the soldiers under his command were slaughtered, blue veins appeared on Slager's forehead, and his anger became even stronger. This is almost all of his wealth. Although these warriors are not as good as elites, each of them has a combat power of at least thousands. There are even stronger ones, some with more than 3,000 to 5,000 combat power. At the same time, the demon leaders Angela, Dorodobo, Kisho, Jigu, and Metamaki were also surprised by the fierce combat power displayed by the Namekians. Such a powerful fighting force must be solved by them personally. In the final analysis, they were too anxious, and started the war before the fog of the demon world had any effect. Otherwise, those elite soldiers would not have been defeated so miserably. Come on, get rid of them. I don't have time to spend with them. Slag was filled with anger, and his deep voice contained strong murderous intent. As soon as these words came out, his last few capable men were sweating like rain. On the one hand, he was afraid of Slug, and on the other hand, he was also afraid that the Namekians were too powerful. Who among them could have imagined that the result would be like this? It is said that although the Namekians are very powerful, they are not that outrageous. Slag has given a death order, and everyone must obey. This also includes the 5 demon leaders. Yes, King Slug, X5. After receiving the order, Angela, Dorodobo, Kisho, Jigu, and Metamaki were all ready to take action. The battle situation did not ease due to the numerical advantage, but became more and more intense. Especially the actions of the leaders of the 5 major demon clans caused the Namek warriors to begin to fall into defeat. Although they are superior in quantity, the gap in strength has already been reflected. The demon leaders are too strong. There is a world of difference between a combat strength of tens of thousands and a combat strength of 2,000 to 3,000. It's like a dimensionality reduction attack. If you wave your hand and attack at will, the leader of the demon clan can easily fight 1 against 10 without being hurt. The Namek warriors who were fierce before had become helpless ants in their hands. HMPH. Don't get carried away, let me meet you guys. After seeing his companions being crushed like that, Nelu rushed up in one breath and directly chose to take action. He couldn't stand it anymore. He originally thought that the clansmen could deal with the men brought by Slag, and he only needed to deal with Slag. Now it seems that the gap is too big. Not all of Slag's men are idiots. Not to mention the 5 demon leaders, there are also about a dozen warriors with outstanding strength. And as the battle lasts longer, not only will these guys not get tired, but they will become braver and weirder as they fight. Looking at the Namek warriors, I don't know what's wrong. Not only can't they keep up with their physical strength, but their strength is also constantly weakening. Taking the lead, Nelu picked Angela, who was closest. At this time, Angela's strength began to increase due to the blessing of the fog of the demon world. He thought that his strength was enough to suppress everything, but he didn't know that what he would face would be Nelu, a super soldier with a combat power of more than 40,000. Gohan, after training for such a long time, it's time for you to experience actual combat training. Seizing this opportunity, Lin Chuan said to Sun Wuhan with a flash of light in his eyes. As soon as these words came out, Piccolo nodded in agreement. Lin Chuan didn't say anything, but he had exactly this intention. Sun Wuhan was frightened, never thought that he would have to fight in person. Uncle Lin Chuan, I'm scared. Sun Wufan's childish voice was full of fear. Believe in yourself, you are already strong. Gohan, Piccolo encouraged him. Lin Chuan nodded and then added, Gohan, I believe that as long as you overcome the devil in your heart and become serious, you will be a warrior who can truly stand alone. And don't you also hope for world peace? If you were the only one who could help Namek at this time, would you choose to stand up? Or hide? The encouraging words gradually calmed down Sun Wuhan's fearful mood. He is a smart kid who knows what to do and quickly figures out his position. I know, Uncle Lin Chuan, Uncle Piccolo. When he became serious, Sun Wuhan's anger also changed. Although complete transformation still requires more experience, the first step has been taken now. Very good, now I'm sending you the first mission. Did you see that guy who looks as ugly as a toad? Go and defeat him and rescue the Namek warriors over there. Raising his hand and pointing his finger, Lin Chuan flashed a meaningful smile at the corner of his mouth. In the original side story, Sun Wuhan was defeated by his opponent who devoured his power. This time, under the training and guidance of him and Piccolo, Sun Wuhan's combat power has reached nearly 200,000 points. Will he still lose? On the other end, Metamaki, who had just absorbed the energy of 3 Namek warriors and had a good meal, had not yet killed him. Seeing Lin Chuan's intention, he focused his attention. Sending a human brat to be my opponent. Do you really don't take me, Lord Metamaki, seriously? Words burst out from his mouth. I saw it impact in an instant. Neither Lin Chuan nor Piccolo took any action, each maintaining their original posture. One person has one hand on his waist, and the other person has his arms folded across his chest. Sun Wuhan was prepared, because his opponent was coming. The serious look is particularly dazzling. The breath suddenly changed. As Sun Wuhan shouted, a powerful aura emerged from his body, sending the approaching Metamaki flying away. This move made Metamaki very angry, and he immediately shouted unconvinced, You brat, if you dare to play tricks on my leader, just take it. His body suddenly became twisted. On his back, the flesh began to squirm continuously, and not long after, 4 small-sized Metamaki were split apart by him. Little ones, suck up all his energy. Metamaki sensed the pure energy in Sun Wuhan's body and ordered the 4 little Metamaki that he split to take action. Lin Chuan had seen this scene before, but he was still surprised for a moment. Piccolo dismissed it. It's a trick of a low-level demon. Gohan, kill him quickly. Don't get bitten. Yes, Uncle Piccolo. Hearing this, Sun Wuhan gritted his teeth, and considerable energy burst out from his body. Countless battle scenes flashed through his mind, and he took action almost instantly, punching and kicking. It can be said that little Metamaki was unable to withstand his blow and was defeated. Sun Wuhan didn't stop and went straight to Metamaki himself. What? Looking at the menacing Sun Wuhan, Metamaki was dumbfounded. Is this riding horse a child? This power is too terrifying. Sun Wuhan did not disappoint Piccolo and Lin Chuan. What this kid needs is their encouragement, so that he can grow faster. The next second, Lin Chuan glanced at Piccolo. Until now, Piccolo has no intention of taking action. Seeing that his attention was slowly focused on Slag, Lin Chuan understood. Want to fight that guy? With your strength, you can indeed face him. However, you have to be careful when facing him. After all, that guy has lived for such a long time. Without any means, it is impossible to survive to this day. Lin Chuan spoke. When Piccolo heard this, he nodded immediately. You don't need to remind me, I know. After saying that, he jumped up and landed in front of Slag. Lin Chuan crossed his arms and continued to watch as if watching a good show. Nelu can actually solve the others. After Son Gohan takes care of Metamaki, he can also assist Naru in killing the others. The competition between two Namekians with super Namekian potential. Unfortunately, Piccolo is still too young. If it were a year later, he might have far surpassed Slug. However, with your current strength, you are still capable of fighting against the elderly Slag. This battle will benefit you a lot. Lin Chuan knew very well the outcome of this battle. Letting Piccolo take action also allowed him to have a good fight with Slug, in order to let him see a higher realm. After developing the potential of the Great Elder, I have to say that Piccolo is actually a little bit drifting. Now, he desperately needed a hit from someone else. Especially people of the same clan. Located in front of a huge spaceship. Slug was slightly shocked when he saw Piccolo facing him. He really didn't expect that Piccolo would actually have the confidence to face him. We are both members of the Demon Clan, how about you and I joining forces? With your strength, if you just stay on one planet, it would be too humiliating. Join me, and we can share everything in the future. After we capture the Dragon Ball, you will also have a share of the credit. Not knowing where the confidence came from, Slug began to offer an olive branch to Bic. He saw the unique strength in Piccolo. Moreover, Piccolo has a demonic aura, so he should be of the same type as them. The people under his command are becoming increasingly unsatisfactory. Now that they are unable to fight back against ordinary tribesmen, Slag is in urgent need of recruiting some powerful subordinates. In this way, he will not be left unavailable in the future. I'm afraid I'm going to disappoint you. I have no interest in your solicitation, and I don't have the slightest interest in Dragon Balls either. I came in front of you simply because I wanted to fight you. After Piccolo finished speaking, he didn't want to continue talking nonsense. His eyes changed drastically and his breath rose rapidly. He launched an attack in an instant and caught Slug off guard, who was still in shock. With a continuous attack of fists and kicks, after Piccolo completely blasted Slager away, a beam of energy with extremely destructive power burst out from his palm, swallowing up Slager's body with lightning speed. Boom. Single quote. Vast energy, infinite power. It penetrated Slag's body, rubbed across the earth, flew tens of thousands of meters, and finally hit an island with a towering mountain. The super big explosion set off an extremely terrifying storm, like a nuclear bomb exploding and a mushroom cloud rising into the sky. Everyone's attention was drawn. Not only the warriors of Namek, but all the demon subordinates of Slager gasped. Because such a terrifying energy bombardment is enough to kill them 10 times. It seems that the advantage is completely on Piccolo's side. But Piccolo didn't get carried away. On his face, the solemn look did not lighten, but revealed a trace of fear. Because in front of him, in the billowing smoke, Slag's body was not blown away with the energy, nor did he suffer much damage. Even though he is old, his burly figure remains standing. When the smoke dissipated, Slug's body was revealed again. The only thing that was in a sorry state was that the black robe he was wearing was destroyed by Piccolo's blow, revealing his true appearance. An old Namekian with yellowish skin. Slug revealed his true face, his wrinkled face full of anger. Those dark and vicious eyes contained huge and boundless killing intent. I gave you a chance. It's you who is seeking death. After saying that, Slug instantly sprinted towards Piccolo. Seeing this, Piccolo put into a response posture, looked at the approaching Slug, concentrated his strength, and suddenly swung out a heavy punch. Whoosh! A burst of sound broke through the air. Just when Piccolo's punch was about to hit Slug, the opponent disappeared in an instant. When he reappeared, he was already behind Piccolo. What? Feeling the crisis behind him, Piccolo instinctively wanted to dodge. But helplessly, his speed was still one step slower than Slag. Boom! A muffled sound. Slager hit Bick hard on the back, sending him flying to the rock wall hundreds of meters away before he could stop. Holding back the severe pain in his back, Piccolo stabilized his body. Is he the kind of being that can be easily suppressed, and how can he be easily defeated? Feeling the power coming from Shaluj, not only was he not afraid, but he became more and more full of fighting spirit. The violent energy flew out and rushed towards Slug at full speed. Boom, 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 boom. When it comes to hand-to-hand combat, Piccolo dare not say that he is perfect, but he also has absolute confidence that he can be invincible in the same realm. Even if there are beings whose combat prowess is much higher than his own, Piccolo is confident enough to suppress them. Facing Piccolo's fierce attack, Slug's old body really felt the pressure. But Slug is still a super being who has dominated the universe for so many years. Even if he is old, he is still not inferior to young people. Hateful. If my body were still young, how could I allow such a thing to jump around in front of my eyes? Clenching his teeth, Slag devoted himself to defense. Although his current strength is higher than that of Piccolo, Piccolo still took advantage of his physical condition. He kept defending, and over time, Piccolo caught the flaw. Boom! A heavy blow broke through the defense and hit Slag hard on the face, forcing Slag back 10 meters away. The ground rubbed against 2 ravines drawn by his feet. Feeling the burning pain on his face, Slag subconsciously wiped the corners of his mouth. A trace of purple blood on his finger was so conspicuous that it made him feel even more ashamed. Furious, the power in Slug's body surged, and he flew back in front of Piccolo so fast that even Piccolo didn't have time to react with all his concentration. Boom, boom, boom. 3 consecutive full-force blows landed on Piccolo's chest, head and abdomen, 3 fatal places. PFF'd. Piccolo spit out a stream of black blood from his mouth after suffering a heavy blow. He flew backwards like a kite with its string broken, smashed into a huge island, and was buried under rubble. Ha! Dot ha! Dot ha! Dot ha! Dot has this body reached its limit so quickly? Just a little movement has already made me gasp for breath. It seems that we have to speed up the progress. I have to collect the Dragon Balls as quickly as possible. Slager knew very well what his physical condition was. He must fight quickly to clear out all the blockers on Namek. Slug defeated Piccolo. Such a scene stimulated all the Namek warriors. Demon, die. Piccolo was defeated. This was not a good sign. Knowing that he could not continue to waste time, Naru immediately became furious. He would not have the slightest sympathy for the people of the Demon Clan. After firing a wave of destructive light and devouring Angela's body, he quickly went to eliminate other enemies. At the same time, because of Piccolo's collapse, Son Gohan completely exploded. Originally, the fight with Metamarch was back and forth. After Piccolo couldn't sense his anger, the little guy felt a strong anger in his heart and no longer held it back. Not only did he explode with a combat power of well over 200,000 points, but he also knocked Metamaki away with continuous blows. Just in time, it landed in front of Slag. Slug, King. Metamage is still partially conscious, but his scarred body obviously has no ability to continue fighting. HMPH. Useless trash. Looking at Metamaki who had no use value, Slag became even more furious. Waste. All waste. He never keeps waste. No, you can't do this to me. King Slug. Metamaki saw the energy accumulated in Slug's palm, and was filled with panic. He wanted to escape, but in his current state, it was difficult to even move. In the end, he could only watch as Slager took action against him. Boom! Under a wave of energy with astonishing destructive power, Metamaki was wiped out by Slug, leaving no bones left. The battlefield quickly returned to calm. The chaos is over. Among the huge Slag army, only Slag was left. All the men he brought were wiped out by Namek warriors. The scene at this time is also quite a scene of forced uterus. Many Namek warriors who could still fight gathered together with Naru and Son Gohan, to face Slag. If it were anyone else, they would definitely be panicking at this time. But Slug was not affected at all. There is no doubt that he is confident enough and has absolute strength. The most powerful members of his clan have been killed by him, and the next ones are just ants in his opinion. He can easily crush a large piece of it. They are all useless people who fail to achieve anything and fail more than they should. In the end, I have to rely on myself. Slag stepped forward, facing the crowd of so many people. His expression was natural. It's like an elder scolding the younger generations of the family. As he took off the broken helmet that had been shattered by Piccolo before, his true appearance was fully revealed. Don't think that because I'm old, you can just use numbers to suppress me and win. My body is indeed not as good as before, but it can still sustain a big explosion for a certain period of time. Last advice, give me the Dragon Ball, I will make a wish and leave directly. Otherwise, taking a deep breath, Slag threatened. However, no one answered him. On the other hand, Sun Wuhan shouted, "Stop dreaming, I want to avenge Uncle Piccolo." Sun Gohan naively thought that Piccolo was dead, and at this moment his anger surged, making it difficult for him to calm down. You brats, and you guys, you really pissed me off. With bulging veins all over his body, Schlager no longer hid, and actively stimulated the dormant energy in his body, using what he had not been able to do for many years. Used abilities. Ha! Followed by a long and deep shout came from Slag's mouth. In an instant, his body expanded astonishingly at a speed visible to the naked eye. Is this gigantism? A Namekian warrior exclaimed. Nelu frowned. No, it's not an ordinary giant transformation. This is a giant transformation. In the inheritance, this move is regarded as a taboo method. Burn your own life energy and push yourself beyond the peak in a short period of time. It's just that you need to pay a huge price after using it. What? Is this the legendary giant transformation? Many Namek warriors were shocked. Ha 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 ha, I didn't plan to use it at first, but you guys are so disobedient. I have given you many opportunities. Now, you all must die. Once I kill you, the Dragon Balls will also be mine. Seeing the surprised expressions of all the Namek warriors, Slag was even more proud and laughed wildly. All the Namek warriors present also felt an overwhelming pressure falling on them. The heavy pressure made them breathless. Also, except for Nelu, their strength is only a few thousand, and the weak ones are only over 1,000. Even the old slug has a combat power of up to 1,000,000 points after turning into a giant. Sun Wuhan, who was originally high-spirited and wanted to avenge Piccolo, had almost reached 300,000 points in combat power. At this time, after seeing such a terrifying scene, he immediately returned to his original form. The situation was completely reversed. But at this moment, Lin Chuan, who had been waiting for a long time, walked up. His eyes kept looking up and down at the giant Slag. He didn't even need to look at the exact data, just by judging the aura, he could figure out what Slug's current combat effectiveness was. Surpassed Frieza, who had not transformed. Able to compete with the transformed Frieza. If he were young, in this gigantic state, Slag's combat power might really be comparable to Frieza's. Therefore, in the plot of the theatrical version, King of the North's statement that Slug is scarier than Frieza may not necessarily be false. Of course, there is another concept, that is, Slug is much more terrifying than Frieza who has not transformed, but he is not as good as Frieza who finally transformed. If this is the way to interpret it, then Slag's final combat power should be between several million and tens of millions. Lin Chuan was certain that Slag's combat power could be increased by at least 10 times after being rejuvenated. Therefore, there is bound to be tens of millions of combat power. What a pity, you are already old. If I were younger, I would really look forward to fighting you. Because the audience was silent, Lin Chuan's words were passed directly. In addition, the hearing of the Namekians was far superior to that of other races, and Slag felt that his dignity had been greatly insulted. He is the overlord of the galaxy. Now a mere Saiyan monkey dares to challenge his majesty. You ignorant Saiyan, since you want to die so much, I will help you first. After being provoked, Shilage planned to use Lin Chuan, who had not acted from beginning to end, to scare the monkeys. He never thought that the reason why Lin Chuan didn't take action at the beginning was not that he was too weak, but that there was no strong enough opponent for him to take action. Boom boom boom. There were layers of sonic booms in the space. Slag's huge fist like a hill violently pushed forward, pressing towards Lin Chuan's body. The pressure is vast and terrifying. The Namek warriors in this area were all worried about Lin Chuan. Although this Saiyan is extremely powerful, can he really block such a terrifying punch? If it were them, I'm afraid they would be so frightened that they would lose consciousness, let alone what happens next. If they simply faced this kind of horror, they would lose consciousness and even have no intention of resisting. Uncle Lin Chuan, be careful. First Uncle Piccolo, and now Uncle Lin Chuan, Sun Wuhan came to his senses and shouted loudly. He didn't want Uncle Lin Chuan to suffer any harm like Uncle Bic. Feeling the huge fist pressure coming towards him, Lin Chuan raised a hand without changing his expression. Bang! A deafening roar exploded in the space. With Lin Chuan as the center, huge ripples were set off in the surrounding space, and the roaring air waves spread in all directions. When the overwhelming storm dissipated, an unimaginable scene happened. Slag's terrifying punch was blocked by Lin Chuan with one hand, and he could no longer move forward. Even the ground under Lin Chuan's feet was not broken. Such terrifying power was absorbed and removed invisibly. What? How is this possible? Slag exclaimed, his pupils shrank sharply and his mouth opened wide. Although his power is far less than before, no one can stop him. How could this fragile-looking Saiyan monkey block his attack so easily? What is the origin of this guy? Hey, is this your full strength? This kind of strength is not enough to tickle me, let alone kill me. Lin Chuan's mouth curled up and he teased jokingly. Saiyan, you just blocked one of my king's attacks by luck. Don't be so self-righteous. Being provoked again, Schrager was furious, and launched an intensive attack with his fists like a violent storm. Boom, 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 boom. The fist, which was like a hill, continuously erupted with destructive power. The devastating attacks again and again finally shattered the earth and shook the space. The entire island, along with the surrounding waters, was shaking constantly. Smoke filled the air and dust flew. Schlager's attacks became more and more crazy. He kept punching Lin Chuan, but no matter how he attacked, his fists were easily blocked by Lin Chuan every time. After a while, billowing smoke spread over the area, which also made Sladen stop this attack method. It wasn't that he didn't want to continue using it, but that he suddenly lost the target of Lin Chuan. Where are you hiding? Come out! Slag yelled in anger. He didn't realize that Lin Chuan had arrived behind him before he knew it. On his right hand, there is a ball of energy that shines with scarlet light. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.